Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
NWA!
The other wrestler out there, I'm not sitting at home waiting for promoters to call me for matches. I'm going out and getting these matches. If the champion has to do that, if you want a piece of the champion, then you're going to have to get off your ass. Sorry, it's PG-13, guys. And get your ass out there and start finding them. Because to be a true professional wrestler, you have to give up a normal life. You have to accept that this is the normal life of a pro wrestler is not the normal life of an everyday person. So when I hear people talking about their jobs or their girlfriends or all that normal crap, that doesn't impress me. Are you sacrificing? Are you suffering? Are you like me getting up in a hotel room in the middle of somewhere that's thousands of miles from your house feeling like absolute dog crap? If you're doing that, then chances are you're either a top contender for my belt or you've got a belt your own. And so that's my message about that. Being like everybody else, if you're going to be a pro wrestler, because if you're going to be a pro wrestler, you're not like everybody else. And I don't mean that to knock. It's just an odd lifestyle. It's not a 9 to 5. You know, part of your job is not stuff that what normal people do. And so I think one of the hardest things for me as a young wrestler was getting that through my thick head and stopping trying to be like everybody else. Or, you know, not even trying, but having a normal life, so to speak. I don't think I get enough microphone time, and I think this is just pent-up promo aggression.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, our presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And with me today is my pal, my confidant, Mr. DKM. Devin, how are you today, buddy?
I'm here. I'm alive. We'll go with that. Hey, let's start off right off the bat with announcing a special thing here. If anyone can find a way to legitimately work Higgs boson collider into the conversation, you win a free neck rub from J. Cal.
You got it. I'm very handsy.
Exactly.
Ask my wife. So this is the Alliance Guys podcast. Special shout out to the birthday boy. I know he's watching, Mr. Jack Zane, the Dane event, formerly known as Godzilla. Literally the titan of the NWA, literally holding the pillars of the National Wrestling Alliance on his shoulders. The man is a Grand Slam champion. He held the North American title, the national title, the tag team titles, and of course, the legendary 10 pounds of gold. And on March 20th at Crockett Cup, he's going to challenge for the national title once again. So special birthday greetings to our pal, our friend, a best friend of the show, Mr. Jack Dane. I just wanted to put that out there because he's such a good friend of ours, and he's very supportive over the years. He's always been a good dude and somebody that I'm proud to call a friend. And one more shout out to the new AEW TNT champion, Mr. Scorpio Sky, another best friend of the show. I mean, you know, since he's signed a contract and all, he hasn't been on, but in years past, he'd made many appearances on this very podcast. And we just want to say salute and salutations to Mr. Scorpio Sky. If you guys are interested in hearing what Scorpio Sky sounded like in 2012, hell, if you want to hear how bad this podcast used to be, you could check it out. Check out the Alliance blog on all your podcasting networks, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher. I don't know if it's still on Google, but you can check it out and hear us talk about Scorpio Sky and his time in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood from 2012. So with that being said, the video obviously today that started off the show, you guys are familiar with our pal Kevin Lee Frazier, the modern day hero, the former World Junior Heavyweight Champion. As he announced on this show a couple weeks back, that he's going to be a father soon. So his time is no longer as available as it once was. So tonight, and I still hope Kevin will be on, but tonight will be Kevin's final episode as an active member of the Alliance Guys podcast. Of course, that seat will always remain open because the Alliance Guys, we never shut doors, we just close windows. But Kevin will be missed. And DK, I know Kevin's not here. Do you want to say something nice about him while he's not here?
Sure, it's the only time to say anything nice about him. Look, honestly, I love hassling Kevin here on the show. I love telling him he's wrong. I love to get in arguments with him here. And, some are legitimate, most aren't. But honestly, he was one of the first people in the business to, communicate with me on a regular basis and truly became a friend. And, I've been out with the guy. I've trained with the guy. I've, had lunch with him. I've taken my kids to work out with him. And, just one of the best people you'll know. And so, it'll be kind of sad not to have him here each week to, pick on and hassle. But having had two kids of my own, I certainly understand that when that first one comes, ooh, your world ain't never the same.
No. And as Kevin, and I would say this to his face because I love the guy. He was always super supportive of the show. When we first started off, he was not only was he willing to come on the podcast, but he was excited about it. He would share it. He would pump it up. He would invite other wrestlers to come onto the podcast. I actually got to finally meet him in person at a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood taping, and with my little handheld microphone, I literally sat there, and the dude was dressed in a shirt and a tie, looking sharp, sharp dressed man. They always said that the ladies can't resist him. And he sat there and he talked to me, and it meant the absolute world to me because at the time we had spoken over the phone, but he was literally giving up his time. Him and Manimal were supposed to be on the next leg of their journey. And he took 20 minutes to talk to me about wrestling, about life, about all kinds of things. So my pal, my friend, Kevin, who I hope will see this at some point, will genuinely be missed on this show. What he brought to the table was the experience of somebody who's done everything that we ask these wrestlers to do. And he had the wherewithal to not only recognize the good, but and the bad. And it wasn't an opinion of a fan. It was an opinion of somebody who had actually been in the ring and did the damn thing. So as much as I love Kevin, I'm going to miss him. Nevertheless, this show moves forward. We progress. And, that seat will always be open for Kevin if he ever decides to return. But, I'm not entirely against adding another Alliance guy to this show at some point. We'll just see how things go. We'll see how things go.
Don't tell George that. He'll try and hog the whole thing.
Who?
George.
George who?
I'm sure there's some guy out there named George who wants to come in here and he'll try and hog the whole
What's
show.
What's funny is I have a really dear friend named George, and I'm like, he likes wrestling, but he's not that much into the NWA. What are you talking about? But nevertheless, guys, we persist, and we're here to talk about the NWA. We talk about some wrestling from time to time. Obviously, we mentioned early in the show that our old pal Scorpio Sky faced off against Sammy Guevara in the AEW ring. And, you know, the last time I saw those two guys in a ring live was in Nashville in 2018 at the 70th anniversary show. And those guys were two of the competitors who were wrestling for that NWA National Championship. They were in the qualifying match. It was Scorpio Sky. It was Colt Cabana. It was Sammy Guevara. And you kind of think about that, and wow, a lot of those guys who were wrestling in an NWA match are now in AEW. And then on the other side, I mean, you had Paro was also in that match as well. On the other side, you had Jay Bradley, who recently made his return to the NWA. But then you had guys like Ricky Starks. And it just goes to show you that there's so much great talent that's out there. You know, a lot of these guys have roots in the NWA. Eddie Kingston had roots in the NWA. Zicky Dice now doing his thing in the United Wrestling Network, roots in the NWA. A lot of the talent you see on TV right now got their
new Impact Women's Champion.
Yeah.
She actually worked as enhancement talent.
Well,
in
you know,
the NWA.
I think they had bigger plans for Tasha Steelz when she debuted, because they made it a big deal when she debuted. But, you know, the pandemic obviously screwed up a lot of that 20-year plan, and they just never really got to it. They just never got to it.
But, so, I mean, she was wrestling, but she wasn't winning, which is fine.
Yeah.
Gives them a chance to, if they know what they're doing, to build somebody. But like I said, the pandemic hit and the world ended.
I mean, if you think about it, if that pandemic never happened and they were still continuing to produce wrestling, you know, Royce Isaacs would probably still be in the NWA. Eddie Kingston would have probably still been in the NWA. I mean, I think that gap in production is what afforded the AEW all that opportunity to sign some of these talents and Impact as well. And I think if they were continually producing content, I don't know if that same opportunity would have presented itself. We might have had a Pope versus Eddie Kingston feud in the NWA. And I mean, we all know how great Eddie Kingston is on the mic. And you and I have both decided that the Pope is probably the best talker in the National Wrestling Alliance currently.
More than just the National Wrestling Alliance.
Fair enough. Could you imagine those promos if that had the pandemic never happened? Could you just imagine those promos back and forth with Kingston and Pope? It would have been money. It would have been so good. You know, but that's fantasy world. We're here in reality, and the reality is we're marching ever so close to the Crockett Cup 2022. I leave next week. I literally leave after this show next week. I'm jumping on a plane to fly to Nashville, and I'll be there live. We know Claudio Castagnoli will not be there as of so far. It hasn't been announced, so no one has to worry about a stink emanating from myself because I won't lose my shit. Do you remember that joke? Okay, you got there. But I mean, the tournament's pretty much set. The matches are pretty much set for night 2. What do you want to do first? Do you want to talk about Crockett Cup? Do you want to talk about NWA USA, or do you want to talk about NWA Power? What do you want to talk about, Mr. Mercer?
Well, since neither of the shows really deal with the Crockett Cup at all, let's start with the Crockett Cup.
Oh gosh, you know, that's one of the really awful, horrible, terrible things about you know, taping these shows so far in advance is that there's so much ambiguity as it relates to the Crockett Cup. And I mean, we're even talking about Power Trip, and there still wasn't a solid connection to the Crockett Cup. You know, and it was only taped a few weeks ago. I think it was in the early February, and it doesn't line up. I mean, one thing that I guess we should discuss is that Chelsea Green has injured her wrist again, but said she's still going to be in that match at Crockett Cup. And that's the women's championship match. And I'll bring up the banner right here so we can all look at it. That women's championship match with Camille, Kylie Ray, Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green broke her wrist yet again. And, you know, it's gosh, I feel so bad for the gal because it seems like she can't get a clean break, no pun intended, on that wrist. And it keeps getting injured. And I mean, that that risk has literally cost her job in the WWE, cost her opportunities with AEW, and but she's not going to let it prevent her from wrestling for that Women's World Championship. What do you have to say about that, DKM, and what do you think about that match as it stands at the Crockett Cup, Night 2, March 20th in Nashville, Tennessee?
Well, it's really a shame because, I mean, I've made no bones about it. I like Chelsea Green. Not the fan when they go back to the hot mess, but luckily, if anything good's come out of Matt Cardona, his relationship with her, now they've been able to change her gimmick back to kind of a heelish, bitchy little women's wrestler, and so we can kind of get rid of that hot mess gimmick again. And it was good the first time they did it, but just like everything, when you keep doing it, it doesn't work anymore.
No.
And so I'm a fan of Chelsea Green. I would never mind if she was the person that took the title off Camille, at least for a little while. Which, speaking of people who've been signed, somebody's got to be looking at her.
At Camille?
Yeah.
100%. And no joke, I'm not trying to be glib here, but like, she is such a complete wrestler at this point. Like, I get it. She's not extremely polished. Like, she's not Thunder Rosa. But the fact that she has the look and she has the abilities, the power, the strength, in the ring, she's believable. And I mean, that's such an important part of the whole thing, is being believable. And when you see Camille out there towering over most women who are, 5'4", 5'5", she's heads and tails taller than these women. She's built like a Mack truck, like a brick house. And, I mean, it's got to happen soon. Maybe it doesn't, but I'm surprised it hasn't.
Right now, and not that I'm the hugest fan of AEW, but they got Lord Steven Regal back, or whatever name he's going by, I guess, and they have Bryan Danielson, and I know that he's been working with a lot of the younger talent, including Jade Cargill, and you can actually see some improvement in her. Still pretty green, but you can see improvement. Yeah. And so I would think somebody like Camille would, whatever she wants to do with her career, man, if you could spend a year, 2 years, or 10 years, they're getting trained by some of the best wrestlers on the planet, get a chance to work with them, man, sky's the limit for her.
100%. And we were talking offline, and you mentioned Jade Cargill, and I believe you said you thought she was training with Danielson.
Yes. She has said something about working with Danielson.
I mean, could you imagine being somebody like the size of Camille, who's got every she is literally just like Jade Cargill, has the complete package, just needs a little bit more seasoning in the ring, and could be a very dominant female in the world of professional wrestling. I mean, that's crazy. Dave Scooby has a question. Any word on why Kylie is in singles action? Is Tootie injured? I didn't hear that Tootie was injured. I haven't seen that posted anywhere. In fact, I recently saw that she's scheduled for a match coming up soon in St. Louis, and I just don't know if she was not booked on this show, or I'm not entirely sure what's going on, but I don't think she was hurt.
I mean, look, this gets back to the NWA hits tag teams. They kind of put, right now they don't have women tag teams. They put some women together for a while to try and make a thing for the Hex. And I mean, even the team they're wrestling up here, I mean, they have wrestled together on Independence, but the NWA's done nothing to put them older or build them up or make them legitimate.
Right.
Which we'll talk about a little bit more in the shows. But
real quick, back to Tootie Lynn. I did just look it up. She's wrestling on March the 31st for Game Changer Wrestling, the collective. So right around WrestleMania weekend. And she's wrestling against Janai Kai for Glory Pro at the Cemetery Gates. So she's not injured. It doesn't appear to be, because she's already booked for another event. So,
of course, that being said, this was taped a long time ago. So,
right. But then getting back to just what's this match with Camille, Tootie Lynn, or excuse me, not Tootie Lynn, Kylie Ray and Chelsea Green. I mean, I kind of thought when Chelsea Green signed, or excuse me, when man, I'm all over the place today. When Kylie Ray signed with the NWA, that she was there to kind of replace what they were losing in Thunder Rosa, which was a very polished, total package type wrestler. Outside of some struggles with her mental health, Kylie Ray has really been all over the independent wrestling scene, and she's somebody who I think is even better than what we've seen in the NWA, and somebody you could build a division on, but they really haven't had the need to move on from Camille. So, I mean, they're still all three of these women, I think, are capable of carrying the Burke. But what do you think, DK? Who's leaving Nashville as the women's world champion?
well, I think that may depend on who leaves Nashville as the world heavyweight champion.
Ooh.
And I mean, I'm going to look at this from outside kayfabe for a while. If you keep the title on Cardona, you can put the title on Green without Camille losing, which I absolutely hate and it sucks, and I will bitch about forever and a day if it happens that way. But then you have that husband-wife champion combination.
Right.
So I could see that as a possibility. If this is they gave the title to Cardona so they could put it on Aldis, then I see probably Camille retaining. So there's my thought process.
Now, this wasn't exactly supposed to be our prediction show because we normally save that for the week before the pay-per-view. But
I didn't make a prediction. I just gave a thought. I didn't say what I think is going to happen. I just said these are my possibilities of what I believe. Some of the thought process might be. Not that I necessarily give Billy as much credit as maybe he deserves on thought process, but.
Well, Camille liked the tweet mentioning our show tonight, so I don't know if she's watching or not, but Camille is my choice to win because
she's who I want to win.
all kidding aside, I mean, I don't think I would stop the motion that is already occurring. Camille is getting over, and we saw that on NWA USA. We'll get to that show a little bit later. But her presence on that program, she was a baby face, and she's supposed to be heel. The crowd has been wanting to cheer for her for months, for maybe even a year. Ever since the NWA has returned, like the crowd wants to root for her. And it's like she wants to stay heel because Tom's a heel, but it's you're getting this weird dynamic where Tom comes out and gets booed, and Camille comes out and she gets cheered. So it's a very interesting course of dynamics in the NWA because
she's even brought that up.
Huh?
She's brought that up on the show.
Oh yeah, I mean it's very noticeable. She comes out, they cheer her, and she's smiling, and then he comes out and they boo him, and then she gets upset. Hey, that's my man. What are you doing booing him?
Well,
Dave,
some of the guys are booing him because that's their man, and they'd rather be.
I'm sure there's a ton of guys that are doing that. Our pal Dave Scooby says Mickey is no longer Impact Knockouts champion. Does she show up to help Nick versus Matt and Chelsea? I'm not making any formal predictions right now, but I really hope that this feud is not just one match. I really hope that Cardona and Aldis doesn't end at Crockett Cup. And I know your face says it all, but I feel like there's a lot of positive momentum with Matt Cardona. Whether you like it or not, there's positive momentum. And if you can harness that to help the NWA, I say you go for it. And I'm not saying who needs to win at Crockett Cup. I just don't want it to be done at Crockett Cup. I think this angle, this storyline, these two gentlemen can have the juice to help propel the NWA just a little bit forward. And maybe that match could spill into international competition. I know Matt Cardona is going to be in Australia in July. I know that Nick Aldis has now been in Poland twice. And the World's Heavyweight Championship, it's always been a priority for that title to travel across the globe. Could you imagine that those matches spilling into Australia, those matches spilling into Poland? I don't think that a world heavyweight title's ever been defended in Poland, so that would be kind of something new for the NWA. And of course, that audience seems to be very much in tune with the NWA in Poland because they brought Chris Masters, Chris Adonis, and Nick Aldis. That feud continued from Power into Poland. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, let's remember, Poland hasn't been out from behind the Iron Curtain for very long. So during the NWA's, heyday, there's no way it could have made it there. And so it would be really cool. I think it would be cool if they went, if the champion goes and takes the belt and would hopefully defend the belt. I know Cardona makes appearances with the title, and I know he makes appearances without the title.
Yeah.
Depending on where he is and what they're wanting and everything. Impact, of course, totally ignores him as champion, or has so far. I was told that he was on some other independent show and didn't have the belt with him and wasn't acknowledged.
I know River City Wrestling, where he was just at last weekend, wrestling the Mysterious Q. It was not billed as an NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match, but rather a Impact Digital Media World Championship match, which, I don't know, that sounds like a downgrade if you ask me. But all the same, I mean, that was the case, and that, another opportunity for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship to be showcased in an area where, let's be honest, a few years ago, San Antonio was kind of a bigger market for the NWA with Branded Outlaw Wrestling. I mean, that's where Jack Stane was competing a lot as your NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. That's the city that Rob Conway won the title from Tokyo Monster Kahagas, was out there in San Antonio. So, I mean, it's a place very familiar with the NWA, and it's kind of a shame that the NWA title wasn't on the line and it wasn't being showcased against the Mysterious Q.
Yeah, and I guess why I'm bringing this up is because so many Kool-Aid drinkers, just talk about how great it is for Cardona to be champion because he's everywhere, and if he's not taking the title with him, it doesn't really matter.
Not at all.
And if he's defending the Impact Digital Media title instead of the NWA World Championship, and they're not acknowledging him, then what difference does it make? And if he's going to Promotion XYZ and wins Promotion XYZ's title, but he doesn't have any of his other titles with him, then including the NWA title, well, then what difference does it make? Do you want your top wrestler, your world champion, going and competing for, some championship in North Carolina that nobody's heard of before?
No.
And showing up there as a challenger, and even if he wins the title, and never acknowledging that he's the NWA World Champion. And so that's, I mean, my biggest issue with Cardona again was the way he was brought in, the way he was booked, what they were trying to do with him. You know, a lot of people were willing to overlook it. Some people drank the Kool-Aid. Oh, he's the greatest. He's the hottest. He's the whatever. Well, maybe, but it's got to transcend. You know, did Cody get the NWA some new fans? A few. You know, you point to the Bearded Trio or something like that. But overall, did the NWA gain a ton of new fans because Cody was champion for 40 days? No. You know, I'm sure some have come and some have gone, and by the time everything's said and done, they're probably at the same thing. You know, they probably don't. They are such a niche group. And, you know, I've even said, you know, all Matt Cardona is going to get you over with are the already hardcore indie wrestling fans.
Right.
I mean, I'm sorry. Zack Ryder might get you over with people who knew WWE. I guarantee you, if I was at WrestleMania this, you know, in a few weeks, and I walked up and down the thing and asked every person on the end, who's Matt Cardona? I'm not sure how many would be able to tell me.
Yeah, you might get that. Who? Oh, you mean Zack Ryder?
And the sad thing is, if I said Zack Ryder, there's probably only a few more that would know who he is.
That's
and
also
they go,
true.
yeah, isn't he that guy that they kept dropping out? Or yeah, that was him.
Yeah. Well, and I do believe. Look, I believe there's a lot of potential with Zach. Excuse me. Yeah, me doing it now. Matt Cardona. And you know, we're talking about what could happen. Of course, it's all going to be decided on March 20th. What happens going forward? If Nick Aldis wins, I think that pretty much closes the chapter on Matt Cardona in the NWA. But I do want to point this out. If they are trying to gain some mileage out of it, you know, Impact is doing a very interesting pay-per-view WrestleMania week. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if that's a pay-per-view or not. They're doing an interesting show WrestleMania weekend, and they're calling it the Multiverse of Madness. You know, no pun, right? No playoff of what Marvel's doing. But some of the matches that they're advertising are like the Briscoes versus the Good Brothers. Eddie Edwards representing Pro Wrestling Noah taking on what's his name? The really badass guy from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Suzuki. So they are billing it as like a multi-promotional matches. And here I am sitting here thinking about what Dave Scooby just said, and that Mickey is no longer Impact Knockouts champion. Does she show up to help Nick versus Matt and Chelsea? Well, all three of those people are still working with Impact. How hard would it be for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship, whether it be Matt Cardona or Nick Aldis, to show up back in Impact with the NWA World title during this Multiverse of Madness show? I'm not, my ear isn't to Impact booking, but I mean, could that potentially happen? And what would you think if it did?
I think if Aldis was champion, it would be a good thing.
Fair enough.
And you know, here's the sad thing about Aldis versus Cardona is that I don't necessarily want either one to win.
You want them both to lose.
Well, you know, and again, I feel bad because I really don't have anything against Cardona outside of how he's been booked.
Sure.
And have something against some of his fans, but that's another story. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything against him, but I don't feel like he's been used right since the second he's shown up. And then they booked Trevor Murdoch so horribly as champion.
Yeah. And
I mean, this gets back to the WWE thing of, gee, we had a hot prospect in NXT, and then we brought him up, and we changed his look, and we changed his style, and we, you know, changed his music, and we changed all these things about him, and he didn't get over.
What gives?
And so it's his fault for not getting over because we gave him all the tools.
Yeah.
To this day, I shit you not. To this day, you can listen to Bruce Pritchard talk about how the Red Rooster was not a terrible gimmick. Terry Taylor just didn't do it right. And I think he truly believes it. I mean, in his heart and soul, because Terry Taylor was a cocky SOB. And he was that way in the back. And so they saw that, and that was their concept, was that he was supposed to be this kind of cocky SOB. But that's not the way they booked him. Because they kind of booked him as this poor, pathetic baby face who Bobby Heenan just screwed up worse than anything.
Yeah, for sure.
But they go, oh, man, if he had just done the part right, it would have got over. No, it wouldn't have.
No, there's no way that would have gotten over. In what world? Like, even as a kid, like, I was a kid during these days, right? Like, that was when I was probably about 10, 11. And I remember thinking, oh, that's really dumb. Why is he feuding with the Brooklyn Brawler? Why are these two jobbers fighting? Like, who cares? Can someone please bring in the Ultimate Warrior and have him beat both of these guys? I mean, that was 10-year-old Jay, of course, but needless to say, our Power Wrestling with the MMA says Bruce is a noose, and I think you meant Bruce is a deuce. I don't know. I'm not a big WWE guy to begin with. Dave Scooby points out that the Jericho Cruise for 2023 is going to have Nick and Mickey on that event. And I'm kind of thinking maybe Jake Cal should save up. How funny would it be that every time Nick Aldis turned around, your boy Jake Cal was smiling at him wearing the ham sandwich t-shirt. Come on. You might throw me overboard. It might be hilarious.
Well, I pay money to watch that.
Thanks.
Well, I didn't say that anything bad had happened to you. Just as part of the show, he goes to throw you in the pool and accidentally throws you a little bit further into the ocean. I'm sure they have boats or something that can get you.
A kind of funny story, I guess not real funny, but a kind of funny story is when Jericho first announced the cruise. This was also around the same time that All In was happening, and the trip to China was being planned. And so I was going to China, and I was this close to going to All In. Like, I was looking into flights, looking into tickets, and the wife said, well, you could go to either All In or you can go to the Jericho Cruise. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'll go to the Jericho Cruise. And I was seriously considering it, and then we bought a house, and there was no money for nothing. So
funny how that happens.
I mean, look, I think the house is paid off. Not paid off, but I think the investment was a better deal for me than a weekend with Jericho on the cruise.
Well, as you notice, we're avoiding everything about the Crockett Cup. So,
well, I think what we're doing is, I really thought Kevin was going to be here with us tonight. And, I know he works, and again, he's going to be a father soon. So there's a lot of things that are on his plate that obviously take priority over this podcast. And again, that's part of the reason why he's stepping down. But, I was hoping we could spend a little bit of time talking to Kevin about the world of pro wrestling and his views, because this is his last episode here. So I've been kind of stalling, hoping that he would jump on, but I'm beginning to think maybe he won't be here with us tonight.
Ooh.
Well, it happens, but
all right, let's run down the card, and we don't have to make predictions, but let's talk about level of excitement for each match. Are we excited about any of the matches?
That is a great idea. Let's start with night one. Okay, let's start with the tag team tournament. Of course, you guys have seen these names already announced. The Briscoe brothers are going to be wrestling against the Now, and then we know that Doug Williams' tag team partner has officially been announced as Harry Smith, and also we know that in the first round, the Fixers, by way of Power Trip, defeated the Original Kingdom, and we already have one first round match up taken care of. So I guess we can go to the play-in, And DK, I mean, what are your thoughts? Are you excited about the plan? Do you think that that's going to be compelling? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, how are they playing in? I guess that's what I don't know.
I think it's supposed to be another 4-way match.
It's a 4-way match? Okay.
Like a fatal
so if it's 4-way match and the Heat Seekers win, then I'm good. If it's a 4-way match and anybody else wins, then I don't care.
And so for your level of excitement, then if the Heat Seekers win, you're going to be excited, and if anyone else wins, you're kind of out on that one.
Anybody else that wins is an obvious setup for La Rebellion to advance to round 2.
And that's the Tate twins as the aforementioned Heat Seekers, and then of course they're Rip City Shooters, and Violence is Forever. So I mean,
those two need to go to a gym worse than I do.
You know, I heard some good things about these guys from their time in MLW. Rick Del Santo over at the Pro Wrestling Zone podcast was telling me some great things about the team that will go up against the Briscoes. That's the Now. But all in all, yeah, I do feel like the Heat Seekers have to go over in that opening round. It just, for anyone else to go over, I don't think it makes much sense.
And why would you bring back a 4-time former champion just to job him out in the first, in not even the first round, in the play-in? And look, I believe Billy's capable of doing that. I'm just saying it would be a bad direction if they do. It would set a bad tone.
Well, and I think the positive though, right? Well, let me rephrase that. I think kind of what Kevin was talking about last week is that this tournament could really be used to make 2 tag teams legit. And that means the tag team that beats La Rebellion, you know, it would be easy to make the Briscoes the winners because the Briscoes are Ring of Honor tag team champions. They're literal championship royalty, tag team royalty, excuse me. And really, with Ring of Honor coming back, we don't know if they're going to be back in Ring of Honor. You know, they're making overtures at FTR and AEW. We don't really know for sure what's going to happen with the Briscoe brothers, but I think it's safe to say that they're not going to be regular members of the National Wrestling Alliance after the Crockett Cup. So if they do not stick around, there's no reason to put the cup in their hands. So I think this tournament could really be a big boost for the NWA if some homegrown talents win. And I think you can do 2 things by having the Heat Seekers defeat La Rebellion, which I love La Rebellion. Don't get me wrong. I think they're a great tag team. Whoever defeats them in the tournament instantly gets legitimate and can claim that they have a right to challenge for those tag team titles because they have a victory over the tag champions. And then whoever ends up winning the actual Crockett Cup, winning the tournament, again, can make that same claim. Hey, we won the tag team tournament. We can be tag team champ. We should have a shot at the tag team champions. So any route that you end up going in this tournament, as long as it's not the Briscoes or La Rebellion winning everything, you could really kind of generate 2 legitimate claims to the tag team titles throughout this tournament.
Will you put the bracket back up?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So we have La Rebellion play-in, Hawks Artery, the end, Strictly Business, Gold Rush, Ill Begotten, Williamson, Harry. The original Kingdom are already gone, so the Fixers have advanced. Cardona's, Pope and Mims, Stevens, Kratos, Dirty Sexy Boys, and the Briscoe brothers. So I say you put, again, this isn't a prediction. This is what I'm saying, what I would do. Devin put Strictly Business and the Heat Seekers and the semis on side A. On side B, you put the Fixers and the Briscoes. And then you try to figure out who where you go from there. If I can be completely honest, if I had my pick of any team, I'd probably put the Cup on Strictly Business, although there's not really a history of putting it on a heel team. But
that would be kind of a bold move, right? Because right now Adonis and Latimer, they're treading water. Latimer has failed to get a victory over Nick Aldis. He's failed in that feud to get over. And then you got Chris Adonis, who just lost the national championship. Didn't do a whole lot with the title while he had it, but both of them have history of being tag team wrestlers. Latimer, obviously, with Royce Isaacs, our former NWA World Tag Team Champions. Chris Adonis spent many years teaming with Carlitos in the WWE as a tag team. Maybe if they want to make that shift and make them a legit tag team, that would be an excellent choice to win the Crockett Cup.
And I think that will put them in the position, if they beat the team that beat the team, so to speak, that you can, that way you have the Heat Seekers and you'd have Strictly Business as your two teams that come out strong. So they meet and face each other. The Strictly Business goes on. Put them in the ring with the Law Rebellion. I mean, Strictly Business as a tag team looks like a good tag team. I mean, they're a tag team, I believe. They're a tag team that I think can function as a tag team and not just a thrown together team. We've seen them team together. They've been part of the same faction. It's kind of like Tully and Arn. People remember Tully and Arn so well, but remember Arn teamed with Ole up until, Lex Luger came.
Yeah.
Tully wasn't a tag team champion. He was a singles champion.
The national champion, right?
National TV title twice, I think, So he, my basic point being there is that he, I think you can look at Strictly Business as a legit tag team and somebody who can legitimately be world tag team champions. That's my take on it. And so I would give them the cup and let them win the tag team titles. And I think they would probably get more attention from the NWA as tag team champions.
Yeah.
Although, I know Adonis got no attention as national champion.
Dave, our pal Dave Scooby says if the Heat Seekers can win and then have a good match versus La Rebellion, they can go after the belts they never lost. And that's a good point. Like, again, that's another storyline that is kind of forgotten by the wayside, is that these guys didn't lose those tag team titles. And as much as we talked about our own friend, Barrett Brown, who you and I both said that should have been at the very least invited to compete in the junior heavyweight tournament, he never lost that title either. And I always felt like he got disrespected by the NWA by not being included. This is an opportunity for them to kind of right a wrong from the past. And if you're going to have the Heat Seekers in the NWA, you might as well give them at least the opportunity to challenge for those titles once again. And I'm not the only one that feels that way. Our pal Wrestling with the MMA says, I feel that the Heat Seekers will be around in the NWA, but I don't think they'll get past the first round, which is kind of surprising. But that's me saying it. I think Billy will have them go after the titles instead, but that's my opinion. Again, that's a vote for the Heat Seekers getting an opportunity to challenge for the tag titles. And then Young Ryder says, over the Briscoes, though, the hottest tag team in wrestling.
You don't put your cup on somebody who's not going to be there the next. I mean, if the Briscoes win, they still got to lose.
They put the first Crockett Cup on a team that they knew back then weren't going to be a part of the Crockett Cup or a part of the NWA going forward in Villains Enterprise.
Well, let's remember when that thing first went through, there was still a working agreement with ROH. It was after the Crockett Cup that they kind of realized that, and the fact that an ROH team had to win it, that they kind of realized, hey, we're not getting a really good deal here. and that And that kind of ended the relationship. But, they still, ROH still put the title on an NWA team or something like that at some point. And so that's my thing with the Briscoes. At some point, the Briscoes are going to have to lose. So you can sit there and go, I understand the theory. Oh, the hottest tag team in wrestling, hottest tag team in greater independent wrestling.
Right.
Again, let's be realistic. There are plenty of people that don't know who the hell the Briscoes are. And if you say Briscoes, they're going to go, Jack and Jerry?
Yeah, that's
honestly. Today there are probably still more people that know Jack and Jerry Briscoe than know Jay and Mark.
Yeah.
And yes, the names are spelled differently, by the way.
Doesn't matter.
But yeah, hopefully they would learn and especially considering there's certainly been talk about them. They're the ROH tag team champions. So chances are they're about to be in AEW or AEW ROH.
Right.
So, I wouldn't put the cup on them.
It's
the question is who beats them. And so, based on the bracket there, again, if you go strictly, but I can see this as a thought process. I'm not saying it's what's going to happen, but I can see this as a thought process. Heat Seekers win the play-in. Law Rebellion beat the Heat Seekers. They're the current champions, beat the champions who never lost. So now they have a tighter claim, to the championship. They go on and beat, Hawk-RE or the End. I hope Hawk-RE beats the End, personally, because I kind of like to see the End as a tag team, which I'm not a fan of breaking up tag teams, but right now I'm not into POWERRR, and I'm very into Odison. So you get Strictly Business over Gold Rush and Doug Williams and Harry. Now, think about this as a tag team match. Who doesn't want to see Strictly Business versus Doug Williams and Harry Smith? Come on.
Yeah.
That could be a show stealer right there.
For sure.
So then you put Strictly Business in against Law Rebellion, and you got somebody and they go over and then win the cup. Sure, you're not getting two teams over, but if you could get Strictly Business wins over British Invasion, over the tag team champions, and over the Briscoes, hell, you think I'm not going to start wanting to pay money to see them?
Right.
Now, to me, this all makes perfect sense, which is enough reason not for, the NWA not to do it. And we all know Billy hates tag teams, so we could end up with the Ill Begotten winning the cup.
Oh, God.
But
wait a minute. With one caveat, because if it's Jeremiah Plunkett, I'm in. If it's Jeremiah Plunkett and any member of the Ill Begotten, I'm in. But if it's not Jeremiah Plunkett, then I'm out. Because Jeremiah Plunkett is going to be on this podcast at some point, and I'm going to enjoy talking to him, and we're going to talk about the NWA from all the times that he was in Saw, when he went to Australia. We're going to talk about all that stuff, and I like Jeremiah Plunkett, so I will not hear any negative comments about Mr. Jeremiah Plunkett. But as far as the other Ill Begotten members go, that's a wash. What I see when I look at the brackets, and I'm not going to – these aren't predictions, but for some reason, I don't think that the Cardonas and Pope and Mims is going to have a winner. I think that's going to be a draw, a double count out, double disqualification, basically giving the Fixers a free ride to the semifinals. And so if they beat the Briscoes will have to have beaten 3 teams to get to them. So I think that would be I think that would be something that might be worthwhile. And then, of course, we're talking, there's former tag team champions in this tournament, with Stevens and Kratos. There's just a lot of opportunity for things to happen. So, I mean, we are not making our predictions just yet, but this tournament is certainly perplexing because, like, you're bringing in Harry Smith and Doug Williams. Like, that's some star power right there. Doug Williams is very well known on the independent circuit. Again, you can't go to the WWE and say, "Hey, do you know who Doug Williams is?" But a lot of people remember Davey Boy Smith Jr. and he is such a celebrated tag team wrestler. I think he that tag team, I think, would be a lot of fun to see if they advance, and I'd like to see what happens with them. And I really hope both competitors stay beyond the Crockett Cup. You look at the Dirty Sexy Boys, a team that doesn't make a lot of sense on paper, but they've been kind of got over with the fans. And it just what's going to happen with them? There are winners and losers in this thing, and you look at this thing, and we could probably guess who everyone that's going to lose, right? Like, do we think Gold Rush is going to make it past the first round? No. Do we think that Ill Begotten will make it past the first round? No. Do we think? I honestly don't believe Pope and Mims or the Cardonas will get past the first round, and I don't believe that Stevens and Kratos will get past the first round. And I don't think that the Briscoes are going out in the first round either.
I don't know. I think Stevens and Kratos might go on. I think that'd be a more interesting match versus the Briscoes.
Yeah. I mean, it would. There's so many different options, and I guess that's the best thing about this tournament is because I don't look at this list and see like a surefire, like that's the team that's going to win it, and I guess that's probably a good thing.
Well, I think I've always said every turn. It's not just me. I've actually read it and heard it from other wrestlers. I just repeat it. Well, in any good tournament, there's only 3 or 4 people that have good chances of winning. Everybody else is there to lose.
Yeah.
And, that's what I said, I don't necessarily have a problem with the ill-begotten being in there. I may have a problem with where they were seated. Yeah. I don't necessarily have a problem with the Cardonas or Popes and Mims being in there. I have big issues with where they're seated.
Yeah.
Both teams. And some of the foolishness that went into the taping when they were explaining who got where. But, I mean, when you look, you got Law Rebellion, you got Hawks RE, you got Strictly Business, Williamson Smith. Before they went to Impact, the OGK. The Fixers have been a fun team. I mean, I have enjoyed them. It's funny that they're kind of like supposed to be this big, strong, dominating team, and they do tend to be booked that way, but they're fun.
Yeah.
I enjoy them. They're even a little bit funny and not ironically, just as people are, I've enjoyed the teamwork. My computer has gone completely to sleep. And
let me try to fill in what you're saying, because I kind of feel like, there was a big guy tag team missing when the Dawsons left. And I'm not trying to talk down about the Dawsons, but I feel like that team of the Fixers is everything that they wanted the Dawsons to be and more, because like you said, they're goofy. They're supposed to be goofy. They come off that way, but it's not like, oh God, change the channel. It's more like, hey, this is actually kind of funny. And the fact that they're kind of charismatic, which is weird because I never thought I'd call Jay Bradley charismatic. They're a team that I want to watch more of. And even last week, and I just got a word from Kevin. He's trying to get on, but he's still stuck at work. So hopefully he'll join us towards the end of the show. But looking at this tournament, I wouldn't hate if the Fixers won it, and that's something that our pal Kevin said last week, that, hey, if it were up to him, the Fixers would go over in this thing. And, I mean, it certainly would establish them as a top team for the NWA. They have been booked in that same capacity as, like, look, they're not an undefeatable team, but they're a good, solid tag team and have had a lot of good matches so far with the NWA. So, I mean, I don't think that's too much to say. Real quick, I see some of the comments and we kind of ignored them for a minute. Let's get back to them. Dodie says, so you don't want Captain Yuma, Jay? You know what? I'll be honest. I love Yuma. He's a good guy. I've known him for a long time. He's been good to my kid, who's now going to be 18 in August, so I can't really say that. He's a nice guy. I feel like Yuma still has a lot more gas in the tank, but I hate how he's being portrayed in the NWA. I just don't like it at all. But, you know, he's filling a role that they're asking him to fill. I get it. But, like, if it were him and Kevin Martinson in this tournament, I think you would be looking at them as a lot more competitive than you will the Ill Begotten. Terry McDermott says the Fixers have saved the show more than once. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I agree. Like, they've been enjoyable. What would Luthez do? Say had to call Wrecking Ball a fat bastard, and I still like them. Yeah, I mean, Wrecking Ball Legursky, I don't know if this is an appropriate comparison, and DK, you're the wrestling historian, so you tell me, but I get a Bam Bam Bigelow vibe from this guy. He's a big dude, but he moves pretty effortlessly in the ring, a lot like how Bam Bam used to move. What do you think about that?
I don't know if I go that far, but I see the connection you're trying to make.
Sure.
And he's
not Bastion Booger.
No. And, you know, which is actually a shame too, because Bastion Booger, whom most people remember probably as Trucker Norman the Lunatic or whatever.
Norman the Lunatic.
You know, in Canada where he wrestled under Mucka Singh, he actually had some pretty good skills, and he wrestled as kind of a big, strong power heel. So, yeah, look, I don't know. I don't know a lot about him other than what we've seen on the things, but he entertains me. Yeah. And ultimately, that's what, you know, I'm paying money for, is to be entertained. So,
I'm going to get some hate mail from Dodie because he says the Fixers, or not this part, he does agree with me that maybe Kevin specifically, the Fixers will shock the world. And then he says, but I like the Dawsons, so I hate you, Jay. So, I mean, get in line. There's about 3 of you now that hate me. So, but that's okay. You're in good company. Nick Aldis is there. And then Young Rider says Fixers are fun. So there's a lot of love for the Fixers here in the chat. And I don't feel like this is the only place they're getting their respects and their flowers. So we'll see how this all progresses. Of course, that's the tournament. And again, it's very hard to predict what's going to happen, which I think is a good thing. Because if we all knew slam dunk who's going to win it, I don't think it'd be as fun. So at the very least, we don't know who's going to win it. And going to be a lot of wrestling on March 19th, a lot of tag team wrestling. And if you order the pay-per-view, of course, you'll probably see the play-in match there. I'm almost positive they're going to have a pre-show before the pay-per-view, although that hasn't been 100% confirmed to me. So there's going to be likely, we have the play-in match, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, at least 15 matches, 15 tag team related matches to this tournament. If they run everything on the pay-per-view. So it sure will be a busy night. And then night number 2, as far as I'm concerned, is like a night of champions, DK, because night number 2 is going to feature almost every single title will be on the line, as well as an introduction to a new championship. Are you okay if we progress to night number 2?
Oh, sure. I think we beat the tag teams to death. So,
yeah. So night number 2, you get the Hex versus Kenzie Page and Ella Envy. Now, I was enlightened on the pre-show on Tuesday that Ella Envy and Kenzie Page have teamed together on the independent scene. So now this is where there might be some continuity issue from NWA USA. We'll get to that later, but Kenzie Page was suspended by Medusa this week on NWA USA. So it'll be hard to understand how that's going to play out. But at least that's the match that's booked for the titles. DK, we've mentioned how we don't feel like Billy really loves tag team wrestling. What do you feel about this matchup that he set up?
Well, he sets it up like he sets up almost all the women's tag team matches, which is not very well. And without making a ton of sense. So, look, this seems to be more an opportunity to let the Hex shine. And the Hex are obviously one of the top female tag teams in the independent wrestling circles. They've recently won another set of tag team championships. And, of course, they've won and lost some tag team titles while they've been NWA champions.
They've been on tour in the UK. They're booked to be a part of the next Mission Pro Wrestling show. I think they're taking on a third partner for that show. But regardless, as a tag team, they are starting to make the rounds. And, you don't really see a whole lot of publicized women tag teams out there. So, I guess it's good that they are making the rounds, and it's good that they're able to defend the titles outside of the NWA, because we're not really getting a whole lot of title defenses on Power or on USA. But again, you're right. I think it's a matchup to celebrate the women's tag team division and celebrate the Hex.
Actually, Marty Bell holds a title somewhere here locally. I think she's the World Class Diamonds champion or something like that.
Okay.
So I just found that out recently. I was looking through all the cards that are coming up for WrestleMania. So I did find that interesting. I did not know that she held a championship here in the local area.
And then and these matches aren't necessarily in order. I kind of put them on the sheet. Here's how I think they would show up. So the next match I think is going to happen would be the junior heavyweight four-way. Aries, Carino, Lockhart, Homicide. What's your excitement for that match?
Well, of course, I'm excited to crown a junior heavyweight title, even if they do have way too many titles. But, that particular title holds a special place in my heart.
We haven't even seen what the belt looks like yet. We haven't seen what the belt looks like yet.
No, that's what I have you for. I'm sure they'll have it out somewhere for a meet and greet or something like that. So you're supposed to take pictures and post them for me.
I will have my camera on hand. I will be there with my sidekick, my daughter Lily. So we'll be out there and trying to snag as much content as possible for the Alliance blog and for this podcast. And then also the next matchup is the TV title match, where you have Austin Idol's protege Tyrus defending the TV title against Rodney Mack. That matchup looks like it's going to be pretty solid. Well, maybe not solid. I don't believe that Rodney Mack is going to have a bad match in the NWA. I don't know how this one's going to play out, but what's your excitement level for that, as we're talking just excitement? Does this match get you excited?
Well, I'm excited to see Rodney, who was recently the TV champion of the now defunct SWE. And it'll be, look, I'm not expecting him to win, let's be honest. I think we see very clearly here that, like, when one person's in charge and owns and books and whatever, his people have a tendency to
go over.
To go over and keep and win titles. And, we see that with Jack Stane not being used to his full potential. I don't think we'll see Rodney being used to his full potential. I certainly haven't seen Jordan Clearwater used to his full potential. So, I have no doubt that Tyrus will win. And if they put the title back on Aldous, I could certainly see a Tyrus Aldous match in the near future, which I think would be a not very good match. But I think Rodney, because he's kind of that big, strong, powerful guy in the ring with another one who's supposed to be big, strong, and powerful, I do think they can have a good Haas match. I don't, it's not going to be a 20-minute classic.
No.
Especially for the TV title.
No, nor should it be.
No. But hey, if we get 6 minutes and 5 seconds of them beating the crap out of each other, I'm not going to turn that down.
What Kevin said his favorite thing is when the two big guys are in the ring yelling and screaming at each other, clubbing away at each other. That's the kind of match that I think we could predict here. Terry McDermott says he may have to send flowers to Tyrus after this match. And then Doty says, will Tyrus finally pass the Lucky 7 rules, or did the NWA still remember those rules that Billy himself created? This is his 5th title defense. So if he walks away victorious, he still has 2 more championship opportunities that he has to prove himself before he qualifies for a world's heavyweight title match. So it's still up in the air. And then, of course, as we go through the rest of the card, I don't want to spend a whole lot more time on it, but we do have the Anthony Mayweather versus Jack Stane, the birthday boy, 10 days from now. Wrestles his former best friend, his former tag team partner, his brother. You never leave a brother behind. That's what Jack Stane said. And now then he left him behind. He and Mayweather will fight over the NWA National Championship. Of course, Mayweather won that title we saw just a few weeks ago on Power Trip. Being the national champion, this is his first defense that we'll see televised, or not televised, on pay-per-view. It's his first match as champion. Your excitement level for that one?
I'm excited about that one.
I mean, same here. I think that's going to be a really fun match.
We not only get 2 big hosses in this one who can beat the crap out of each other, but both are pretty damn talented too. So I think we can look forward to, and they're kind of in a blood feud of sorts. So sure, Mayweather remembers the alcohol in the eyes and everything. So, and his cut and all that good stuff. So
will Chris Silvo, the attorney for Jack Stane, be in attendance?
We can hope, and then Mayweather can beat the crap out of him too. Because I mean, let's be honest, I'd rather see that than almost anything else. But yeah, I mean that match, and more importantly, that these 2 guys are having a title match. I mean, it's not just them wrestling, because it's being run by Mayweather's group, as has happened in the past. I mean, there's an NWA title at stake, not just an NWA title, but what should be their second most prestigious title in the heavyweight division. Is at stake, and it's against what I think anybody would have to consider 2 top contenders in the NWA. So, yes, please, more please.
National championship was Colt Boom Boom Cabana. National championship was Willie Mack winning that at the 70th anniversary show. Colt Cabana winning it at Crockett Cup. The title changed hands between James Storm and Colt Cabana from Ring of Honor to early episodes of Power. Cabana would lose the title to Aaron Stevens, who would declare himself the 3rd degree national champion. And Stevens would finally lose the title to Trevor Murdoch on an episode of Primetime Live of United Wrestling Network. And of course, Trevor Murdoch would lose that title to Chris Adonis, who used nefarious means and basically tricked Trevor Murdoch to defend that title while injured. And then our pal Chris Adonis would give up the title to help Nick Aldis challenge in the Battle Royal to get an opportunity to challenge for the World's Heavyweight Championship before he would regain the title and then lose it to Anthony Mayweather at Power Trip. So that title's had some history in the Lightning One era of the NWA. A lot of great wrestlers have held that title, and Jack Stane, to me, fits the bill of a guy you want carrying your national championship. And that's not to cut short anything that Anthony Mayweather has done or can do with that title. I think both of these guys are really would be great representatives for the NWA going forward. Terry McDermott says, I think this will be the best match of the night. And Terry, between this match and the junior heavyweight title match, I think you're right. I think you're right. Doty says Mayweather versus Dane is a divisive match. Dane deserves better, yes, but so does Mayweather and the national title itself. So, I mean, there's people in our chat who are like, well, I don't even know who I want to root for because both of them are very good. But we've got more of our friends filtering in. We've got Roswell's in the house. He just got off of work, so welcome in, Roswell. We also got Craig in the house. He was watching the YouTube premiere of MLW Super Fight. I mean, if you want to watch actual wrestling instead of people talking about it, I guess you made the right choice. But I don't know. I'm here for the discussion. That's what it's all about, baby. And then that brings us to we talked about it earlier, the women's match between these three ladies. DK, what is your thought on this one? Are you excited for this, or you think this is going to be a money match? You think it's going to be a dummy match? That's good. Money or dummy? What is it?
Depends on how it's booked. I think all three have talent. Even if Green wrestles, I don't know how limited she'll be by her broken wrist.
Right.
Cast or not. Well, I just don't want them to do a title change. So it's like, I would be excited, but I'm also nervous.
And then, of course, the main event, the one that everyone's been talking about, Aldis Cardona. We spent some time talking about it earlier in the show. Will this be the end of the line for Cardona? Will Nick Aldis bring the NWA back to its restored glory, or will Cardona save the NWA from itself? And what role will Jeff Jarrett play in all of this? Excited? Is this a money match or is this a dummy match?
Yeah. Actually, watching the two of them wrestle, I think will be good. But again, I'm nervous as to what role Jeff Jarrett will play. I would much rather have them not have done that. Because I don't want there to, whoever wins, I don't want it to be because of anything Jarrett does. Now, if the match goes clean and Jarrett, calls it down the middle and whoever wins, and that's life, and then Jarrett wants to bash them both with guitars, hey, that's fine with me. Just let the match itself come to a relatively clean finish in which Jarrett's not involved.
Now, okay, so we do know that there is a growing contingent of Cardonas in the NWA. We also know that Nick Aldis certainly is not revered by at least three members on the roster. What if it's not Jarrett that costs Aldis the title, but what if it's Latimer? What if it's Latimer and Adonis? What if it's Camille? Or what if it's one of the members of the Cardonas? Would you still have a problem if the title did not change hands because of outside interference?
If it doesn't change hands, I don't have a problem with outside interference. I only have a problem if it's with change hands, because I think when a title change hands, it needs to be as clean as possible.
That's fair. Okay.
That's personal belief. And in the early days of the NWA, they did. I mean, not that things couldn't happen. Dusty Rhodes was attacked by Terry Funk before his title defense against Harley Race, where he lost the title. When he lost the title to Ric Flair, the second time he lost the title to Flair during his 2-week run with Big Gold. Tully Blanchard had injured his knee the night before. the night of. Rick had him in a figure four leg lock, used the rope for a little bit of leverage, but mainly where he pulled himself up, let go of the rope, and came down, and then that's when he got the pin. So there wasn't interference in that match, and there was a little bit of cheating behind the referee's back, but not so much that it was enough to give, Dusty the out for only holding the title for 2 weeks. And so in that case, yeah, I mean, it's what I'm really don't want is I don't want Jeff Jarrett to be involved in the decision. Strictly Business comes out and cost them, fine. If the Cardonas come out and cost them, fine. As long as they develop a storyline with it.
So, some of the comments real quick. Matthew Underwood says Cardona should still have the belt after this. Aldous doesn't need the belt. Luthez says Cardona retaining would send multiple messages.
Good or bad?
Yes.
I'm seriously, Lou. I'm asking that question. Sends multiple messages. Good messages, bad messages, a mix. I mean, for those who were here earlier, I explained some of my issues with Cardona and the championship and how some things aren't going as advertised, so to speak.
Yeah, when he posts his comment, we'll get back to it. One of the things that I was thinking as you were talking in my own head is, Trevor Murdoch has not been announced for this show at all in any capacity, in any shape or form. Trevor Murdoch did not get a rematch. You would imagine that he should have some sort of rematch clause in his contract. We haven't seen him since his loss. He hasn't really been vocal on NWA Power or on social media, which he never was anyways. But what capacity is Trevor Murdoch going to be at this show? Will he even show up to the show? And what kind of chaos could a very angry Trevor Murdoch do at the Crockett Cup?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting thought. I hadn't really gone there mainly because it was like once the NWA decided to take the title off Murdoch, I think they were just done with him as champion. Because all this came out immediately, basically immediately after the match into the celebration to issue his challenge. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how they're going to use Murdoch. And
one of the I just want to get to some more of the comments too. I know that you already answered, but Dave Scooby asked, does Jarrett bring back the Global Force belt? I mean, he could certainly hand it to the person who he thought should win, but I don't know if this would be the appropriate time to do that, considering it's an NWA pay-per-view. But you never know with Jarrett. It's not like he is not above going into business for himself. So we'll see what happens there. Doty says, if Aldous wins, I'm intrigued to see the NWA title defended at the Jericho Cruise. That would be the first time the World's Heavyweight Championship was defended out at sea. So I think that'd be kind of cool. But if Cardona lost,
if that would happen,
sure. These are all ifs, right?
And again, for some of the people that came in later, they may not have heard my rant at the beginning, which can basically be summed up with Cardona hasn't taken the belt with him to several places. And Cardona hasn't been acknowledged as champion in several places, including some small indie feds.
Yeah.
And, when he was here in Texas, he didn't defend the NWA title. He didn't have the belt. He wasn't recognized as NWA champion. He defended the Digital Media Championship from Impact.
When he was here in LA for Game Changer Wrestling in a tag team match, he did, in fact, wear the 10 pounds of gold.
So, I mean, he does in some places and he doesn't in others.
Right.
And that's my thing, is the fact that Cardona's going to hold the belt, don't assume he's going to be defending it other places or on other shows just because that's where he's booked. Because there's certainly evidence out there that it's not happening.
Yeah. And then to finish that, Jody says, but if Cardona loses, it's really a shame that the savior of the NWA had less title offenses than Trevor Murdoch. Craig says, I'd like Cardona to retain and then have Cody come out after the match and state that he never got his championship rematch following his loss to Aldis, then set up a match between Cardona and Cody. I mean, that would be certainly, I think that would get you some eyeballs. I'm not going to lie. I think a lot of people would notice that and pay attention to that. Much like when All In happened and a lot of people were staring at Cody and were rooting for Cody to defeat Aldis back at All In 2018. I think certainly this could get some eyeballs, more eyeballs on the product, whether you like it or not. I think it would definitely get attention. And then Doty reminds us not to maybe say some of these things out loud because we don't want to give Billy any extra ideas. Craig says, I realize the chances of this happening are slim to none, and a lot of people might disagree with me, but it'll certainly draw a lot more eyeballs to the NWA, which is exactly, yeah, I didn't even finish your statement there, Craig, but that's exactly what I agree with you.
But would it be a lost leader?
Would it be a what?
Lost leader. In other words, I don't see Cody working cheap.
No.
And
Cody is not going to take a discount to work the NWA, even if it's to hang out with his pal,
And so you have to put it in the right place. And then again, what's the message you're sending? Matthew Underwood said something to the effect of, I'd like to see Matt signed to the NWA. And, as a champion, sure, but it'd be a foolish move on his part.
Yes.
Because he's out there making money. And if he ain't in this business, Bobby Heenan always used to say, "Grill him soon." If you ain't here to make money, you're a fool. And Cardona is popular, and he is out there, and a little bit in large doses, but in small doses of traveling all over and doing things. The man's going to make money, and so the last thing he's going to want to do is sign to the NWA, because I promise you, he can make more money out there wrestling for the Digital Media Championship than he can defending the NWA title.
And I think, as an entrepreneur, you got to go where the money takes you. And, I don't think I heard it 100% from his mouth, but I think I heard him say, or somebody said on his behalf, that he's making more money doing the indie dates than he was on his WWE downside guarantee. So it's like, you kind of get what you give with this business. And somebody like Cardona, who, let's face it, the guy's a hustler. The guy's everywhere. Whether it be Game Changer Wrestling, Big Time Wrestling, RCW in San Antonio, the NWA, Impact Wrestling. Hell, he even made appearances for AEW. The guy is going to get paid no matter where he goes. So being exclusive to any brand is not a great idea for him. But if there's a deal that can be made where he is more, makes the NWA more of a priority and is recognized as such while he's taking his indie dates, I mean, if there's a way to make this a win-win, I'd say go for it. But, again, if I'm an indie promoter, I don't necessarily care if the NWA World Champion is on my card, but if Matt Cardona can sell 10 more seats or 20 more seats or, whatever that number is to make his pay justified, then why wouldn't I book him, regardless of whether he's World's Heavyweight Champion or not? Okay, and then let me get to some more of the comments. Craig wants to remind everyone that the Global Force Wrestling Championship was unified with the Impact title in 2017. I think our boy Eli Drake was involved with that, or maybe it was maybe it was Nick Aldis. I'm not sure. My mind is not what it once was. Luthez says depends on those receiving them. The boys make it. This is back to what you were asking earlier. The what kind of message does it send to the talent, or what kind of message does it send? Who does it send it to? And Luthez says depends on those receiving them. The boys may take it as it's not the Nick Aldis show, which has been thinly veiled since the beginning. Also, that Cardona isn't a drive-by champion. I think both of those options No one is bigger than the NWA. Period. Cardona is a bigger star right now, but he's not bigger than the NWA. Nick Aldis has been the face of the NWA, but he's not bigger than the NWA. At some point, Nick Aldis will not be in the NWA, whether it be because he's retiring or because he bows out or because he got a better deal elsewhere. He's not going to be in the NWA forever. And at some point, it'll be Nick Aldis's time to bow out, and the NWA will still be around. Now, good news is our buddy Kevin is back on the road again.
Yo!
Road again.
And this is Kevin's last appearance, guys. So y'all better listen up, because you're not going to get to hear this the Scar Neck chants end tonight.
We may keep it.
We love you, Kevin, and you gotta watch the beginning of the show because we kind of put you over. And when you get a chance, you got to come back and watch it. Let me get some more of these comments. James says Matt says he likes being a freelancer, not signed to any one company. Our pal Devin's here. No worries about being late, Devin. Just glad that you're here. Matthew says that Billy needs a bigger venue than the GPB studios. I don't know that they're returning back to those studios anymore. I think they might just hang out in Nashville for a while. We'll see how that goes. Craig says, "Don't worry, you weren't the only one. It's been a night for latecomers." Yeah, we have even the star of the show tonight. Kevin came in a little bit late, but that's we love you, Kevin.
Sorry, guys.
You're good, man. You're good. Dodie says the problem with Matt is he doesn't really need the title, while with Nick, I'm sure he'll defend the belt anywhere he's booked if he's champion like he did. And then, gosh, you guys are so great with the comments. Our buddy Tim Wood from NWA Gold says, I really think we ought to be maneuvering Pope into the NWA title scene rather than bringing a Cody type at this point. Cardona was a good move, but we want to grow our own guys as stars. Am I right? And I agree with Tim 100%.
Yeah, and I think that was, earlier when I said I didn't want either one of them to win. Going back to what will Luthez do on the messaging, he goes, well, it depends on who's receiving the message. Boys might take it as it's not the Nick Aldis show. Well, okay, but it is the Nick Aldis show for now. And but like Jay said, that's not forever. And at least Nick is a loyal NWA, wrestler. And so, you can go, oh, well, Cardona isn't a drive-by champion. Well, okay, but what does that mean? I mean, basically, it's basically saying if you want to be world champion, you need to be somebody who's, an indie darling, or you need to be Nick Aldis. So, I think that's the issue. But, I'm all for, I'd be all for Cardona being the NWA champion if that was his top priority, his top thing. It's not going to be. It shouldn't be. He makes more money, make more dollar. And so that's what he needs to do. He needs to go out there and, wrestle and, line his pockets and, buy a house. And, he's married. So how long before there's a kid here in a couple of years or whatever? And as Kevin will tell you, there's a kid coming, your world changes. And he don't even know the change that's getting ready to happen to his life.
Oh, I think he knows. I think he's got an idea.
I thought I knew. You never know until it's there.
This is true. Now, Kevin, you're not going to be with us next week when we are going to make our predictions, but I want to just hear who you think is going to win at Crockett Cup, because we won't get to hear you next week. And obviously, that World's Heavyweight Championship, I mean, they certainly have built in some options in case, with a special referee and all that good stuff. But Kev, who do you think is going to be the holder of the 10 pounds of gold come March 21st?
Well, I think it almost seems too obvious that it's going to be Nick Aldis. But I also feel like there seems to be I feel like there's an organizational reason for the kind of the rushing of getting Aldis the belt back.
I'm not going to try to speculate. I mean, I could speculate what that is, but I don't know what it is. But it seems like they just I don't think they wanted to move him this quickly back into the title picture, but it seemed because the British invasion and everything seemed kind of poised to be a part of the Crockett Cup. So I don't know what caused the kind of the expediting of the process. Who knows? I mean, it could have been an injury to Trevor Murdoch, or I don't know. Who knows? But for some reason, they just really forced Nick Aldis into this spot. It almost seems inevitable he's going to win the belt. So in my mind, you know, that's what I'm thinking. And I think it would be like a major upset if he doesn't win the belt. Just because everything, it's kind of like all things are pointing to him winning the belt. And I'm talking about this from a terms of being realistic, not about, well, the champion should be the favorite. And I'm being realistic here. Like, come on, guys. Like, it's not 1980. We don't have to pretend to ourselves like we don't know what's happening. So, to me, the big upset would be if Aldis doesn't win the belt. I think another big upset would be if it feels like both champions in the Crockett Cup world champions in the Crockett Cup and the world champion in the title match both are underdogs to me, because it just seems like there's no win for La Rebellion to win the Crockett Cup, at least for the organization. So to me, I think it's going to be somebody, and like we had talked about before, I think you can get two big-time number one contenders to the championship by having, you know, by having La Rebellion lose to a team in the Crockett Cup, and then also, you know, whoever makes it to the final, you know, that beats La Rebellion, whoever they have them lose, and then whoever wins the tournament. Now you've got three legitimate you know, like you got two legitimate number one contenders. One, the team that beats La Rebellion, and then two, the team that actually beats the team that beat them. And you get, I mean, I know it's a lot of convolution here, but to me that seems like the most likely route. So it would be a big upset to me if La Rebellion wins. To me, I think it's the Fixers, just by the way that they seem to be getting the biggest push, and I think it's just a good move to me. Like, they really are like an up and coming team, and I feel like for the NWA, this is the way they can brand their kind of one of their teams that they kind of help make. And so, you know, the Fixers are my pick to win the Crockett Cup, and I think they're going to beat the team, whatever the other teams that beat La Rebellion in the semifinals, in the Final Four.
Well, I did kind of echo that sentiment from last week earlier in the show, Kevin. So you'll be happy to know that I did talk about that earlier. And one of the things too is outside of the Briscoes, that side of the bracket seems like it's a lot easier for the Fixers. I mean, they've already got one victory in, right? So they are already rested for the Crockett Cup. And if we're just going to if we're just going to speak about like how it's set up, I mean, the Cardonas versus Pope and Mims, I don't think that's going to have a clean finish. Kratos and Stevens versus the Dirty Sexy Boys, that's kind of a wash, could go either way. The Briscoes versus the Now, I'm sure the Briscoes are going to go over. You know, there's opportunity there for the Fixers to have kind of an easy chance at that cup if they want to. So, I mean, it's all based on booking, but I support
Well, it looks like to me, though, too, it's almost like it just seems almost set up to have the Fixers and the Briscoes be the semifinal team and have the Briscoes do the job to the Fixers, because that would be a big feather in the cap, because you could have two things happen, because I think the Briscoes would have to go through Aaron Stevens and Kratos. So then again, now for the Fixers, you've beaten, you know, the team that beat the former NWA champs. You've beaten the top tag team, quote unquote, in the independents right now, and you won the Crockett Cup. That kind of would put them, you know, square-eyed against, like, you know, to be the next big tag team in the NWA. Which, you know, again, I just think you are primed to have some really good tag team matchups. In this last show, the show we cover on like the Power Trip, to me, if they just do what they did at Power Trip at this pay-per-view, I think the pay-per-view is going to be spectacular. Because to me, Power Trip has actually been the best thing they've. And again, I'm guilty because I haven't finished it. But up to the Nick Aldis, I've watched about half of Aldis versus Lattimore. But I mean, I'm always going to love Lattimore. But unless the main event is just a complete, debacle, I can't imagine. Like, I think Power Trip's going to be the best show, in my opinion, that I've seen them have as this new organization. 'Cause this show has been great.
So hey, Kevin.
Sir.
What do you think about this possibility? Because when I was looking through things, I kind of like the idea of Strictly Business winning the Cup.
I would love that. Like, absolutely love it. I just don't know how committed they are, just based on the way that they seem to not. They just don't seem very committed to this version of Strictly Business. So I would love to see them win it all. Like, I would love that. I would love to see Latimer and Masters as a team, and I could even see them being the champs. And then pulling the big ruse and then Nick Aldis wins the title, and then Strictly Business all comes back together at the end of the show or something like that. I'd be all for that too.
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of moving pieces there. Now, let's move off of the pay-per-view Crockett Cup, and let's talk about the shows that did happen this week, because we did get some good wrestling. Or Kevin really liked Power, and we'll get into that. And we had USA, and that was
So we're an hour and 41 minutes into the show. We haven't even covered the show yet.
No, we were talking all about Crockett Cup.
Well, I love you guys.
And we put you over huge in the beginning, so you gotta go back and watch it. Cause
all right, I'm gonna have to get some sound bites and play them on my social media.
Yeah. Well, I think DKM used the term like the son he always wished he had. I said you're like the brother that I wish I had.
Oh Jesus, please! Oh my God! Oh my gosh! Jeez. I just want to know.
Hey, Jay.
Yeah.
Next time, share whatever you've been smoking.
Fair enough.
Packages across the country. Oh, geez.
I think that would get me in jail. But anyways, we start with NWA USA, and that kicks off with Tim Storm back in the booth again. So it's kind of nice to have some continuity in the booth. Having Tim Storm there again just means we don't have Idol and Velvet Sky arguing throughout the whole show, which to me is very important. May Valentine is up with Kyle Davis right before the show right before the match. And May explains that she did not want to be in the ring tonight. She did not want to wrestle. She blames Tim Storm for making this match. And she seems very reluctant to step in the ring. But also at the same time, she seems kind of fired up. And the segment was interesting because Billy finally paid off on an announcer versus a wrestler feud. We finally get a match.
Sort of.
What did you think about the promo that led up to the match, DK?
Overall, I thought the story was okay. Don't really thought we got a payoff on it yet. A real one. We'll talk more about what happens in the match and what causes the second match. But, unless you're going to put May in the ring, and they did bring up the fact that she's had some training, but unless you're going to put May in the ring doesn't even have to be a full-time basis, but on a semi-regular basis or something like that, I still don't like wrestlers versus announcers. And so, I mean, honestly, the way they booked it out, it could have been Aldis and bald guy.
Kevin, did you see this segment?
Guilty that I didn't get to catch NWA USA, but I do look forward to going back and seeing actually just this match. But go ahead and spoil it for me, guys.
So the matchup actually never really happens. May gets in the ring, and Markova is announced. She comes out there, but the physicality doesn't really happen. Now Markova just ends up playing around with May. They're not really wrestling. She kind of pulls her into the ring. She pulls her hair, but then as it starts looking like there might be an actual match that happens, Camille slides out, not in wrestling gear but in street gear, and just spears the absolute crap out of Markova, like one of those beautiful spears that we've seen Camille hit a dozen times. Valentine takes the disqualification, but Markova kind of got her butt handed to her by Camille, which, that's the matchup we kind of thought was coming anyways. When it goes to commercial, comes back, when the show returns. Well, you know what, DK, give me your take on that. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was basically Markova tried like a couple of clotheslines or a couple of things that got ducked. The most physical contact, I think, was when she pushed May down. Yeah. I mean, it was very short. We're talking like 30 seconds of anything. May have taken a minute for them to go through it, but. And then that's when Camille comes out. And by the way, the reason this match was taking place, because apparently under Tim Storm's watch, if you're going to have any physical altercations, and since May came out and slapped Markova, apparently he missed the part when in an earlier episode Markova had grabbed May by the hair or something like that. But now, since something physical has happened between them, you settle it in the ring, because that's what you do. That's what it is. It's wrestling. We're going to settle it in the ring. So even though you have somebody that's not a wrestler, since a physical altercation took place, they're going to do it in the ring. So then out comes Camille. Camille's, spears Markova like Hobbs spears Calvin. And you got to read Calvin Hobbs people to get that one. And now Tim Storm's mad and all upset. So now he's making Camille Markova for a non-title match in the ring, because since Camille got physical, that's what we're going to do. We're going to settle it in the ring with a match.
And at least there's some consistency right there in the booking.
Yeah, but they end that real quick, don't they?
Sure. Then Dodie says, I have no idea why Camille should be there. What's her motive and why should she do that? Remember when Tim Storm asked
Camille, her and May are friends.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the low-key answer, but the storyline answer is when Tim Storm asked Camille to be out there, remember it was Markova that took the cheap shot on Camille, and she didn't receive any comeuppance for it. So for Camille to kind of, spear Markova, I'm sure that was a receipt that she had waiting for her for that sneak attack for no legitimate reason. And then we get what looks like it's going to be a match that doesn't really last very long, because Markova versus Camille gets set up. Oddly enough, this is a heel versus heel match, and it turns Camille very much into a baby face. The crowd's very much behind her. The ladies take turn trading some offense. Camille has the upper hand, but Markova dodges that spear that she, a second spear. And right as Markova is about to connect with her move, Kenzie Page runs out. And as we said earlier, the match gets thrown out because of another disqualification. So technically Markova has gotten 2 wins tonight without actually pinning anybody or getting, a submission. But what happens to Kenzie Page is she gets suspended which again, I don't know if they're going to ignore that for the Crockett Cup, but they announced that she'll be in a tag team match at the Crockett Cup. So again, that didn't make much sense. But DK, what did you think?
But who suspended her?
Oh, Medusa. Excuse me. Yeah, Medusa came out, who is the director of NWA USA, and basically, do you think she overstepped her boundaries?
Well, no, I think the booking was stupid. Because you've had Tim Storm involve himself in two things now, saying we settle it in the ring, we settle it in the ring. And so Kenzie Page comes out, does the same thing that Camille did. Do we set up a match between Markova and Kenzie Page? No. Tim Storm doesn't even get out of his chair for this one. Medusa comes out.
Hey,
and she suspends Kenzie Page again, because she was suspended last time when Markova wasn't and should have been. And so, authority figures hate Kenzie Page in the NWA.
Kevin has a question in a comment. So, Kevin, you go ahead.
So this is a classic case. It would be cool if booking. It would be cool if insert dumb idea. And then, and then it would be cool if insert dumb idea. And then by the third, it would be cool if idea. It cancels out the it would be cool if first idea. Instead, you're supposed to say, it would make sense if blank. Oh, yeah, then it would make sense if blank. And then it would make sense if blank. And then the last thing you said makes the first thing still makes sense. So this is, I call this rookie booking. Like, this is like somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, that doesn't know how to have, like, foresight or to think ahead, that does it, and then after the fact they go, oh, whoops, that was stupid. Like, that's what you're looking at. Because it's just dumb. Like Devin said, like, how are you going to have one guy get out there, that Camille should be suspended then? It's either Camille should get suspended, or we should have had a three-way between Kenzie Page, Markova, and Camille. That's what one of those two should have happened. But kind of like DK said, and Tim Storm didn't even get involved or didn't have a word to say. So a lot of it would be cool ifs, but but not a lot of it would make sense if.
For the state of getting this show going, we're not going to talk about Colby's backstage segment because it was just alluded that the Fixers would be there to help out in the four-way dance. So we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to spend any time on that. The next thing we're going to talk about is, Kevin, I'm so sorry. If you go back and watch USA, you might want to just stop after that Kenzie Page suspension, because then we get Ricky Morton in 2022 in an NWA ring against potentially your next junior heavyweight champion in Austin Aries. Now, the last time I saw Ricky Morton in an NWA ring, he had lost the tag team titles to Eli Drake and James Storm, and that was a perfectly good send-off for him. But nevertheless, the announcers kept saying, hey, this is a main event anywhere in the country, and I'm just thinking, where? What company is booking this title match? Or this is a main event match? Because this was just not that good. And I get the nostalgia, and I get why people still dig Ricky Morton, but the guy can't work like he used to. And I get it. He's still that baby face, but are we all going to just pretend like he's not 70 years old now? I'm not sure why they made this the main event. I'm not sure why this is even booked. Ricky is very dependent on his son, Kerry, for distracting Austin Aries in this match. It was more like Ricky and Kerry were kind of the heels in this because, Kerry kind of kept getting, trying to distract Austin Aries. Now, of course, Aries, pie-faced Kerry Morton, but at the same time, it's like, he didn't need to be out there. This match didn't even really need to happen. Aries gains an advantage in the match, and, they kind of try to show how resilient Ricky Morton is. After a few failed attempts at a pin by Morton, Aries picks up the pin with a roll-up. I think the term is win ugly, but this was just unnecessary. One of the worst matches I've seen all year for the NWA. DK, I'll let you say your 2 cents on this one.
I mean, I don't even think it was like a roll up. Didn't he like grab the ropes? Didn't he have to cheat or something?
Yeah, I mean, it was a roll up with when he grabbed the ropes, but it was, yeah.
I mean, look, maybe Austin Aries' attitude problem came out in the back, and they decided, well, here, we'll show you. You'll go over, but you're going to have to look like a chump to do it. Well, why you put Aries in the ring with an old, decrepit Ricky Morton when there's a nice young Kerry Morton? Well, Jay disappeared. Kerry Morton there available to wrestle? I have no idea. And 2 phrases announcers should never, ever, 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 ever use again. Or this could be a main event anywhere. And oh my gosh, that move must have broke his whatever. And look, I've loved USA up into this show. And it's like this show Billy Corgan booked as opposed to some of the others. I mean, they called it their season finale, and it's the worst show they put on.
Yeah.
And it's just like going, do you not want us to come back? I mean, Kevin, do you even have a comment on this, or are you just going to cry in your beer?
I mean, honestly, like, why? I've said it since the very beginning. Some people may take it that I have some kind of personal vendetta against Ricky Morton, and I do. You know, like, I do. I do think, personally, I don't see how you could be at this stage of your career and you're wrestling in a main event instead of your son. It's just like hopefully my audio is still going.
No, you're good.
Looks like I froze.
No, you're doing good. Keep talking.
Freeze. Okay. Well, you guys froze. Okay. But you guys froze, so it's probably just me. But no, I just don't understand how. Like, I agree with Devin. Like, you have Ricky's son, but it's just like Ricky with Chase. He did the same thing with Chase. He jobbed out his own student to win the World Junior Heavyweight title. Like, it's like Ricky Morton has no shame, like, at all. Like, I'm not picking at him, like, I'm not just taking shots at him or anything. I'm just saying, like, what's the point of older wrestlers bringing younger wrestlers into the business if they're going to go out there and they're going to take liberties with their celebrity and steal the spotlight from them? What's the point? And I get less and less respect for Ricky Morton, like, every time he goes out there and does something like this. And Austin Aries is a head scratcher, because if he's such an arrogant, such a headstrong, I do what I want, why would you put Ricky Morton? Why would you put Ricky Morton, or why would Ricky Morton? Why would you not go over Ricky Morton with something a little stronger than just a roll up? That you had to cheat. It's just really weird to me. Like, again, it's just, I don't know, man.
Why would you even go in the ring with Ricky Morton?
Right. Why would you not argue that, like, hey, this is kind of dumb? Like, why not make it a handicap match? Because, I mean, Jesus. But anyway, I digress.
Well, because money's still green and check's still clear, and it's a rock star paying you to go out there and wrestle some old dude. So we'll just move forward. That brings us to POWERRR. And as Kevin alluded to earlier, this was the finale of Power Trip. For the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of great wrestling out there in Oak Grove, Kentucky. These premier live events have been amazing, and such a better presentation of the product and such a better reaction from the fans. All in all, I kind of wish they would just film on the road from now on and do these premier live events more frequently, because I think that just the shows seem so much better when that's what they are. This one starts with the Idol Sports Management, or really it's Idol and Tyrus. And this is when Idol is at his best. He's just kind of putting over Tyrus. He's screaming at Billy Corgan to respect the Idol Mania Sports Management, which I don't know what Billy's ever done con to the Idol Sports Management. Tyrus refers to the ill-begotten as the soon-forgotten, which I thought was funny. And then they start talking about Scion, which flips us to the ring where Scion's in the ring waiting for his opponents, waiting for his tag teams. And you have the ill-begotten, Galley drops a question once again on Scion. Who's your father? And it's like, I'm tired of them asking about who his daddy is. Let's just see him fight. And again, Scion doesn't answer the question, just says that he's here to bring violence. You guys want to add anything to that, either one of you?
No.
I do.
Okay.
I do. I really liked this segment. I like the whole segment. I thought for promo wise, this was pretty strong altogether.
Yeah.
How's my audio? Is that okay?
You're good.
You're good.
Okay. But no, I thought it was pretty strong altogether. I thought the Idolmania part was a little off, but kind of like what you guys said, this is where I think Austin Idol is much more in his element, just coming out and bragging about stuff and running his mouth. I mean, that's his strong suit. I really did. I enjoyed their little promo, and then it wasn't great, but it certainly wasn't terrible. And then love is a strong word. This was my favorite segment that Scion has been in. What I'm starting to see is, I feel like he's starting to figure out who he is a little bit more. And he had some conviction in his promo. Honestly, maybe you guys don't like it, but I like comedy, not too much, but the natural kind of comedy that wrestling provides. And so I'm good with the who is his dad story as long as the crowd is chanting, "Who's your daddy?" That to me was funny. I mean, this is why wrestlers, this is why I did what I did, or I say why we do what we do, for fun elements of it like this. Maybe for us watching the show, it's not as fun, but to me, I'm kind of thinking of myself out there as Scion, trying not to laugh, because it's funny, them chanting, "Who's your daddy's" funny, and the more he panders to it, or even acts like maybe, the more seriously he takes it, the funnier it gets. But I also felt like Scion had a little something in this promo. Like it wasn't Pope something, but there was something there. I'm seeing development in the character. So personally, I didn't hate it at all. I felt like this was to me, this was Scion's really best moment. This match and that promo was his best, altogether moment in NWA. Period. I did not hate it. Wasn't my favorite thing ever, but I also love seeing people develop and get better. And I feel like I'm seeing, I'm starting to see Scion actually become something. He's having voice inflection. He's pantomiming. He's got a cool cape now, which I'm a huge fan of. And he has a funny chant that goes on every time he comes out, which is "Who's your daddy?" So, all in all, it was kind of a win. The first opening segment was a win for me. I enjoyed it. And there's no one here to argue with me, so.
You mentioned capes, and real quick, I'm just going to play this just for a second.
NWA! 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 The other wrestler out there, I'm not sitting at home waiting for promoters to call me for matches. I'm going out and getting these matches. If the champion has to do that, if you want a piece of the champion, then you're going to have to get off your ass. Sorry, it's PG-13, guys. And get your ass out there and start finding them. Because to be a true professional wrestler, you have to give up a normal life. You have to accept that this is the normal life of a pro wrestler is not the normal life of an everyday person.
I think Scion has been studying old modern-day hero clips because, the cape, the better inflection, the better promo. I mean, maybe he's your understudy. Maybe are you mentoring? Are you Scion? Is that what's coming? Is that why you're no longer on the show? Is because you're Scion?
Well, or am I? The real question is am I Scion's daddy? Because I am a former NWA champion.
There it is. Love it.
Is he my son? That's the question you all need to be asking yourself. Everyone in the chat, we need a poll for this. Is Scion Kevin Douglas's son? Is it really my son? That's the question you guys really need to be asking yourselves right now.
I'm going to start calling Scion the modern day hero Scion, the modern day hero number 2. Well, anyways, let's get to the match because it was kind of a fun match. I mean, the matchup itself doesn't make a whole lot of sense because you got, of course, Scion and Tyrus have beef. Scion has beef with all of the Idol Sports Management, but the rest of the guys really don't. It's kind of like an enhancement match for Idolmania. The show's been on air for about 10 minutes, and we still haven't really seen much of anything happen. It literally took Jordan Clearwater about 3 minutes to take off his robe. Then the Ill-Begotten worked really hard as a team. The Ill-Begotten worked really well as a team, I should say. Tyrus gets in the ring and just throws Alex Taylor around. Alex Taylor is getting all the heat. Like, he was Ricky Morton in this match in the Rock and Roll Express in the old days. Like, he was just getting beaten it up, thrown around the ring. Clearwater is basically pantomiming Rick Rude, not only with the taking off the rope, but in the ring doing the hip gyration and doing it very poorly. This gives Taylor the chance to make the hot tag. Mims gets in and beats down Black Cheese. The match spills out to the floor. You've got all kinds of crazy going on. Tyrus eats a couple of forearms from Mims. Mims even picks up Tyrus and has him ready to slam him down before Marche interferes. And Tyrus legit smashes Mims. Idolmania Sports Management gets the W, and to add insult to injury, Mims eats a heart punch from the champion with the post-match celebration. Kevin, what did you think of this one?
Honestly, man, I liked this match a lot. Like, I really love these kind of matches anyway, because I feel like these are like kind of matches you throw together just for the fans. There's nothing, you're not really trying to accomplish a whole lot. So it makes the psychology really easy. So you don't have to have any real major happen. So I felt like, I don't know, I felt like they had a match that, this is a match I felt like, could have easily turned into trash and garbage. But instead, I felt like it was a very solid match because they used basic psychology, and because of that, it made it really easy to follow, made it easy to get into. Technically, it was a really sound match. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of blunders in the match, or at least anything that I really noticed, and I loved the finish. Absolutely loved it, because this is the kind of finish that if the everyday person's watching goes, oh my God, I don't care if wrestling's real or not, I would never, ever, ever want that to happen to me. So it's kind of one of those moments, like, because honestly, that was like cringeworthy to see Tyrus fall on top of somebody like that. And again, those are just moments I love. I love the finish. Like, because it was creative. It put Mims over. The heels cheated, and then, I wasn't a big fan of the heart punch afterwards. I felt like if you really want to get somebody over, that's a great chance for Scion to come in and save Mims and get the big babyface pop. But, whatever. But all in all, I really liked the match. I thought it was good. Psychology was good. They got good crowd reaction in this match, like tons of heat. So what's there to complain about?
I will say this real quick before I get DKM's point. I did like the fact that because Mims took the loss the way that he did, it kind of plants a seed that maybe Mims versus Tyrus for the TV title could happen down the road, which I think would be a fun way to see Mims get elevated. DKM, what did you think of this match?
Well, honestly, I didn't love it as much as Kevin did. And part of the reason may have been I watched USA and Power back to back, and USA may have just drained everything out of me. And so I was, it was fine for what it was. I mean, like Kevin said, nobody would ever want Tyrus to fall on them. That would be a scary, scary concept. Legitimately scary. And he I'm going to go with what Kevin said here as the best thing to say about the thing. And something that could have been really, really bad it wasn't. I didn't love it like he did, but it was fine. You know, I didn't hate it either. I don't have any major complaints about it. I can't sit there and go, man, they screwed this up, they screwed that up, or whatever. And, you know, again, I just watched USA, and to be honest, neither Tyrus nor Scion are anybody who interests me, so bad timing to watch that match, I guess.
Did you know that Scion might be my son?
There are rumors.
Yeah.
He did say he was an NWA world champion. He never said which world title.
He said it was a former champion. And, you know, he was wearing a cape out there. So, I'm just starting rumors.
It's possible. Your wife may want to talk to you if he is.
Let's keep in mind, Kevin would have had to have been like 2 or 3 to have conceived a son that would be Scion's age. So let's just throw that out there. Next up, we get the I Quit match, Aldis versus Latimer. Now, this is the matchup that I wanted at Hard Times too, because this is supposed to be a blood feud. If you're Nick Aldis, this is the man that tried to ruin your career. If you're Tom Latimer, this is the guy that's been holding you back. So this is the kind of match I wanted to see, and we should have got this at Hard Times too. But Latimer drags Kyle Davis to the ring. He tells Nick Aldis that he's ready for war, and that, you know, Latimer's already armed with a chair and vows to end this tonight. Now the match starts off, like I said, the way it should have at Hard Times too. It's still weird to see these guys fight each other because of the relationship, you know, that they had before, and, you know, probably the relationship they still have outside of the ring. Some really disturbing spots are when Latimer is forcing Aldis to bite down on that steel turnbuckle. That was very uncomfortable for me to watch, even more so when he has that spare turnbuckle and is fish hooking Aldis with it. That was like, I'd never seen stuff like that before in a wrestling match. So it was, again, I felt like that was super disturbing. The match was extreme. It was intense. It's everything that I was hoping Hard Times 2 would have been. So I kind of felt like this was vindicated. But the match, I don't like the way that it ended because we didn't have a decisive winner. Camille came out and did the time-honored tradition of like, hey, I care more about this person than that win or loss, and threw the towel in the ring. So, I mean, it kind of got tainted. You know, Aldis was sitting there looking like he was up against himself. He wanted to hear Latimer tap out or quit. And the same thing when Latimer finally came to, he wasn't happy either because he wanted to force Aldis to quit. So, I mean, the dynamic was there. I thought the match lived up to it. I wish we'd have had that match at Hard Times too. DK, I know you said you were kind of already soured on this show, but thinking back to this match, what did you think?
I would have given this match a solid 4 rating until the end.
Okay.
In that, I don't understand how an I Quit match, a person who's not in the match can quit. So, I mean, just by the definition of the match, it didn't end. And then the second thing is, and this is one of those things that bothers me and continue to, is Latimer was dead between those chair shots, and then and he said he was going to die first and all that good stuff. And he was all but dead there and in the mood when Camille came in and stuff like that. So he's been beaten severely, and all of a sudden he's up punching out security.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a quick recovery. I don't care how much adrenaline would have been flowing through you, unless you got that Bane juice from the Batman.
No spoilers.
Don't you read comics?
Oh yeah, fair enough.
So unless you got that Bane juice from the Batman, it ruins to me what had been a good strong match. Like the match I was expecting to see the first time they wrestled, And yeah, that the ending soured it for me. So, you know, just as I was getting my expectations up, they crashed to the ground again.
Kev, I know Latimer's your guy, so tell me what you thought about this match.
Yeah, I really liked, honestly, like, guys, Latimer looked like a freaking $1 million in this match. Like, looked outstanding. Ring work was great. I thought Aldis looked really good. This is the best I've seen Aldis look in a while. Probably since, I don't even know. I'd have to go back and, like, review earlier footage to see if he even looked this good when NWA came back on air, like, started the Power show. Aldis looked really good. You remember there was a time there where Aldis was looking blown up every match, and he just wasn't looking good? This was not the case. I felt like in this match, both guys looked like they were in top physical condition. Aldis, I felt like maybe left a little bit on the table condition-wise, but honestly, both these guys just looked great, and it looked like a big league match. I love the fishhook thing with the turnbuckle because you just not really seen it before, and you know I like that. I love the gritty stuff. Having shared the ring with Masada a couple of times, that's just part of the game when you get into business. Is you're gonna make your way up. There's one of these days. Back in the day, it was Abdullah. When I broke in, it was Necro Butcher. Later in my career, it was Masada. Nowadays, it's probably Nick Gage. You know, you're going to run into these guys if you're going to make your way up the ladder that have no problem getting really, really nasty. And I really love to see guys like that, like Aldis and Latimer, who kind of really make their name not in this forum, who can cross into this genre and actually make it really good and believable and give you a match that really feels like that you feel it. You know both those guys are going to be sore after this match. Didn't get to see the finish, unfortunately, but what I saw of the match, I really liked it. Really disappointed in the finish, just from what you said. But overall, I was happy to see Latimer not actually lose the match. That part makes me happy. So that part I'm happy about. The other side of it, too, though, is, you might be looking at a reason why hold on one sec, guys. You might be looking at a reason why Latimer might have trouble breaking into the upper echelon because of psychology, like certain psychology faults in his game, like getting up and no selling a finish, like should know better. That's certain things that you gotta gotta catch it, before you go out there and do it and go, hey, that doesn't make sense. If I'm gonna get up, maybe have something happen that causes me to get an adrenaline rush or something. I don't know, or I don't know if he passed out. If he passed out and then he comes to, okay, that could kind of make sense. So there's certain elements where it would make sense, but all in all, I don't know. I obviously, you guys know I love Latimer, and honestly, I really like Nick Aldis in this match too.
I agree. I thought it was a good match, but let's keep going. But real quick, I want to point out our buddy James H. Jackson, who's probably purchased more merchandise than anyone else on the whole podcast. Oops, pushed the wrong button there. He suggested, and I'm fully supporting this, and in fact, I'm going to make this shirt, Kevin, and all the proceeds we earn from this shirt, we're going to donate to Baby Frazier. And it says, we need an Alliance blog, Who's Your Daddy t-shirt and hat set. The shirt is no problem. The shirt is coming. Give me 24 hours and I'll have a shirt ready for you. And all proceeds of that shirt are going to go to Kevin's unborn baby. And you can put it in a college fund or buy some diapers with it. I don't know, but we're going to do that. And we'll have that shirt next week so you guys can purchase it if you want. Because if James is suggesting it, then we're going to make it happen.
So my question is there anywhere on the shirt, is it going to say, Sion is my son? That's just the question I have, the $1 million question.
We'll put it in very small writing on the bottom.
Oh my gosh, our inside jokes are just the greatest.
So that takes us to the main event. And this was the match that, I was very excited to see, because for weeks, we've heard about how this man was our world's heavyweight champion, but we never got to see the match. And I'm going to be honest, I saw what they were trying to do, and I don't think that they got there. This was the world's heavyweight championship match. Murdoch looked absolutely laser focused. You can tell he was in a bad mood. Matt Cardona looked like he was ready to go, just like the name says. Our friend, Certified Hustler, was in the audience, heckling the ever-living crap out of Trevor Murdoch, flipping him off, literally saying, "You are the worst NWA World Champion ever." I kind of felt bad for our world's heavyweight champion. Even Sandoval looked uncomfortable standing next to Certified Hustler. Cardona was playing mind games right off the bat, refusing to engage with Murdoch. The crowd was chanting, "You ain't ready," and then half the crowd started chanting, "Always ready," playing off of his nickname, Matt Cardona's nickname. The first few minutes of this match is just Cardona posturing, just playing up to the crowd. We talked about that in the Adonis and Mayweather match. Very similar in that Cardona was just trying to avoid contact. And then the match finally happens when Cardona gets Murdoch in a bad situation and starts taking advantage. A real sick moment in the match is when Cardona dropped Murdoch on his head on the outside. I don't know if that was a hard way, a bust open, or if he bladed. I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't see him blade, but I saw lots of blood. And, that meant Murdoch was wearing the old crimson mask. Cardona was firmly in control after that, but somehow a bloody Murdoch was able to hit a flying crossbody, which, I'm always surprised when a guy like Trevor Murdoch can connect with that move, because he's such a big guy. And then he went to hit, or he got that pile driver, but still wasn't able to put away Matt Cardona. And then the finish of the match actually saw Cardona run into a steel chair that was wedged into the ropes. Cardona did not throw him into it. That's why they said he wasn't, Murdoch wasn't, or Cardona wasn't disqualified. And then he hits that radio silence for the 1, 2, 3. Team Cardona comes out to celebrate. We hear Velvet Sky say no about 160 times. Cardona says he won't Shane Douglas the title, which I kind of laughed at. He says he'll be the greatest champion of all time. And that's the conclusion of the match. We'll talk about the other segment afterwards, but first, DK, what did you think? This was the title match. This is how he became world champion. What were your thoughts?
It was short.
Yeah.
It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
I tend to think that the dropping on the head, I never saw the cut, which makes me think it was probably a blade.
Okay.
Because, typically if you're busted open hard way, there's a pretty jagged, nasty cut that you can see. And then they'll tell you how many staples or stitches it took afterwards to close it up. This was their way of getting the title off Murdoch without having Murdoch look too bad. But it was their booking that had him looking bad. And again, a soured individual from USA and the end of the Latimer Aldous match didn't do anything for me. I mean, I wasn't excited. Of course, we've known forever, so it's not like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that, or even, oh damn, I was hoping they wouldn't do that. I mean, you knew what was going to happen, so there was no excitement in the title change. So the only thing that you can have is hope for is that it's a really hot, good match, and I just felt like it wasn't. As you pointed, there was a lot of avoidance after that head drop. It was just mainly Cardona kicking Murdoch in the head, and then you know, he wins. Okay.
It was very anticlimactic, and I think that was the problem, because if Murdoch was there to lose, which, I mean, obviously that was the case, it should have been a big moment, and it didn't feel like a very big moment. It felt like, okay, he hit the finisher, but it took such a long time to get to that point. Kevin, I know you didn't see the match, but what we're describing, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? How do you feel about what we've said so far?
Well, I'm definitely going to go back and watch it, because the reason I want to watch it more than anything is just to see the crowd reaction.
It was very mixed.
And the crowd in this whole show was very, very involved. And if they were just as involved in this match as they had been in the rest of the show, to me, that alone is a success. That's an element that we as spectators watching on video, you know, we're not participating in that element. And I think that we're missing something kind of that's a little bit unique about this whole setup, which I actually would like to see him do it again. And I'll tell you why. Because we weren't at the live show, so we missed that moment. We missed Anthony Mayweather raising his hand in his hometown and getting the big pop. We missed the angst of the back and forth. And not only that, but we got an anticlimactic response because we already knew the end of the match. And to me, all that says is, hey, you want the real thing? You want to feel it? You want that moment that we're talking about? Buy a ticket and go to the show. Buy a ticket and go to the show. And to me, that was part of what I kind of was hoping, because again, we're all talking about old school wrestling here. That's how they did it in old school. Like, if they made it feel like you missed out when you weren't at the live show. Yeah. And yes, I know we're paying $5 a month for this, but the reality is we're not paying what the fans paid to get into the show. And not only that, but we weren't diehard enough to make it out there. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not knocking. I'm talking about myself. So I think the element that they created in this show, and I told you all along I liked it, because I liked that it made me feel like I missed out because I wasn't there. And we're just getting the leftovers. And I think that's good, because the people that went to the show are going to tell us that it was different. And we can't argue with that. If they say it was the greatest show they've ever been to, and it was the greatest experience, and we say, yeah, well, it wasn't great on TV, well, yeah, you weren't there. And again, I just think it creates an element that I don't know if they did it on purpose, but I think it creates an element that you just don't see in the wrestling world right now. It's unique in the wrestling world today to have a show where you feel like you really missed out because you weren't there, because it was taped, and now we get all it's anticlimactic for us, but that's because we weren't there. But what were the fans acting like in the show? How are they responding to this match? What was their interaction like? And to me, it sounds like they were in it. And just to tell you my take on the psychology of the finish, you got a heel winning. So you don't want a big, yay, he won. You want that awkward, like, oh man, this is, you don't want that. You want the big happy pop when the babyface wins. When the heel wins, it's like you want it to feel like quagmire, like a shot to the gut in some cases. So if it had that element for the fans, I think that's actually a good thing. It just, to me, it felt like this was a live event that pandered more to the crowd, and we just happened to get to watch it on tape. And a lot of major things happened at this show that you missed out on if you weren't there live. And no one's doing that right now. And we give the NWA crap about a lot of stuff, and I agree with a lot of stuff we give them crap on. But I feel like this show, they can do one or two things with this show. It can be a launching pad for them to maybe start to define their brand differently than the rest of the brands, or it could be one of those, oh, we got lucky. they just got lucky, you know, and it just kind of happened, and all the cards just kind of fell in place for them. But those are my thoughts on the whole thing. Just the concept that they used was unique because we're getting the leftovers, and that's what you get for not coming to the live show. Now maybe when the NWA comes to Texas, you know, hopefully they do, DK can be there live, and maybe the feeling will be different when you're sitting in the crowd than when you're watching it on TV. And that's just kind of my take on it.
Well, the only thing I'm going to say to that is that, I don't give them enough credit to be that smart.
But who knows, you know? But they could.
I mean, who knows?
But
I'm just saying I don't give them enough credit to be that smart.
Well, but who knows? Maybe they got lucky, DK. I'm sorry to just jump in, but maybe they got lucky, and if they maybe get a brain or two, they could say maybe we have something here, and maybe try to repeat it.
And I would like to talk to like some people that aren't necessarily. I would like to talk to some people that go to tried and true shows, as opposed to like NWA hardcore fans that are more likely to love it there live, and actually see what they think about it past the thing. You know, years ago, I went to a movie with some friends, and it was in a crowded theater. The crowd was very interactive, that particular thing with the movie. Cheered at the parts you were supposed to cheer, awed at the parts you were supposed to awe, got into it. And I left thinking, you know, that movie wasn't that bad. I go, it was a pretty good movie. And then like a week later, you realize you just watched Batman and Robin with George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell and Uma Thurman and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you start realizing, you know, actually that movie sucked.
Yeah.
But, you know, you were there with the crowd, and so while you were watching it there with the crowd, you were very, oh, wow. You know, because everybody was so into it. And it's been a long time since I've had experience like that in wrestling or a movie theater or any place, you know, where you're just so, this is so exciting. And yeah, but then you walk out and you realize that you just saw a jumbled mess of BS all over the place. You know, when you get away from the hype and the high of being there and everything. And so I would be interested to know what, you know, a more traditional tried and true fan thought of the show. So, well, you have any closing thoughts? Because we've already run like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up right now. Just real quick, James H. Jackson said, it's like the champ was booked to get his butt kicked. Oh, excuse me. I read the wrong line. The booking right after Trevor Murdoch winning the title up until he lost it was real bad booking. He was always booked to look weak, and that's a bad thing to do to your champion. And I couldn't agree more. And it's disappointing. And I really hope that Trevor Murdoch doesn't get lost in the wayside. And whatever is next for Trevor Murdoch, I hope he comes out swinging and clubbing and beating the ever-living piss out of whoever's in front of him. With that being said, this is our last episode with our dear friend Kevin Frazier. And I just personally want to thank Kevin for stepping in to this show 2 years ago when DK had decided to take a break. Our pal Jaden decided to take a break. And Kevin was kind enough to step into this show as somebody who had been a frequent guest, a dear friend of mine. You know, I was saying the story earlier, Kevin, and you can go back and watch. One of the coolest things to me is that we were in the Glendale studios for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. You and I had spoken to each other via this podcast, but never had we actually met. You took time out of your day. I know you and Bull had your next leg of your trip to go to, and you took time to talk to me. You'd spoken to my little stupid Sony hand recorder. You were nothing but class then, and you're nothing but class now. I am better for knowing you. This podcast is better for you being on it, and I do appreciate you spending the last 2 years, spending the Thursday nights with us, helping to not only give us the wrestler's perspective, but help educating us as viewers. Kevin, damn it, man. I'm so happy for you in your life. I'm going to miss the heck out of you being here Thursday nights. Thank you for being a part of this show.
we can tap the brakes just a little bit, just because it's not my last time on the show.
Yes.
Let's just say that. It's
Seat
just
is always open.
right now, right, and the commitments right now are a little bit over the top. For those of you guys who don't know, my wife and I are pregnant. I'm having a kid, and also too, I've been ordained as a pastor at my current church, and so my wife and I are actually starting a church here in Florida, and so I'm just getting to a spot where I need to make some time in certain areas, and I am always part of this show. I don't care what DK says. I'm always part of the show. And Jay hasn't invited me, but I'm always invited back whenever I want to come in.
That seat is always yours, my friend.
I know it's there. So, I'm not gone forever, guys. I love all you all in the chat. DK, I love you, man, like a father. Jay, I love you like a brother. So I mean, Jaden's not here, so whatever. Gonna miss him and his takes. But I love all the people in the chat. I feel like most of you guys follow me on social media. I'm not going anywhere. It's just, right now I'm just having to take a little bit of a season. But I'll be stopping by, when I've got some free time on Thursdays, which I'll make some free time periodically. I'll tap you on the shoulder, Jay, and be like, hey, send me that link this week. If I can pop in and give DK crap, I will. Just that whole thing. But like I said, I love you guys. I consider myself part of this, the Alliance family, and if I have to come back at some point, because we're gonna have to get those Scarneck t-shirts off the ground.
Oh, yeah, we got Scarneck shirts and Who's Your Daddy shirts. DK, I know you got a show coming up on the 31st. Plug it, and let's go home.
All right. Well, first to Kevin, we can't wait for the times that you do come back in. So.
Oh, and I'm gonna have my child on. I'm gonna bring my mini child, like my mini person. You're gonna have to look at my child if I'm gonna be on this when I come back on the show.
Like Renee.
We better just don't breastfeed, okay? So anyway, yeah. Look, Kevin's somebody who I've sat across the table from and eaten with, and broken bread, as the old saying goes. And we've had some philosophical conversations, and we've had deep conversations, and we've had wrestling conversations, which are neither deep nor philosophical. And, look, brother, I love you. And, Preston saw you, I think it was last week on the thing, and he was so excited to see you. And he wanted to pass on just, how much he enjoyed his time with you too. And, William has as well. And, so we are looking forward to you coming back. All right, I'm going to do a real quick plug for our shows coming up here. Iconic Heroes of Wrestling Excellence, Insane Hardcore Wrestling, two different sides of the same coin. Going to be here March 31st in Fort Worth, Texas. Beautiful Fort Worth, Texas, where the West begins. And they're going to do their Southern Hall of Fame inductions, and they actually, when people are inducted, this stuff that actually goes into the UTA library, where you can read up on the wrestlers. So it's more than just handing somebody a plaque and saying here. And so we have several people inducted. Kevin will know a lot of them because we're doing 2 years worth. But Mike Fox, Scott Summers, Bull Schmidt, and the Destroyer, Dick Beyer, Lance Romance. Here's somebody that Kevin should really know. The Overboys with Mike Page.
Yeah, I've wrestled everybody in there pretty much besides two people. Every one of those people. Mike Fox, Scott Summers. Yeah, the Overboys, yeah, beating them all.
So there will be 2 matches that day. or not 2 matches. There'll be 2 cards that day. We'll have the Insane Hardcore Wrestling. They're gonna fill their championship, and then there'll be a break that will allow for a meet and greet. Anybody who buys the ticket's invited to the meet and greet. If you buy a VIP ticket, you can come to the Hall of Fame induction. Trying to keep that one a little bit smaller still because of COVID and some of the older people that will be around. Old School Hustle will be starting at 7 o'clock that night. We got a 10-man tag team that will feature Tim Storm as one of the competitors. They'll be doing a Brass Knucks Championship, and which will feature Haas Holding and the Unknown. And a ladies Queen of the Ring Championship match between Amaris Blair and Laney Luck, both of who are known in this area. And we'll have a match to crown the inaugural Excellence Champion, as well as a match for the IHWE World Championship. So lots of titles, lots of fun, lots of personalities. Mark Lawrence from the old World Class days are going to be there. Rob Moore, who's a legend in this area, is going to be there. And Katie Lynn, who was a America's Got Talent finalist, will be there too. So come meet, come greet, come spend time in Fort Worth, come spend money, come pay sales tax so that, people can continue to thrive in this area. You don't want to be in Dallas. Dallas big old. Yeah.
I think we're gonna have David Fuller on again. I think I'm gonna talk to you offline, but I think we're gonna do a very episode centric on everything that's going on that weekend. So we'll definitely get to more of it. But I guess we should wrap it up now. Real quick, Kevin, how can they follow you on the socials?
So if you go, like, take that name with a Lee in the middle, you can find me, Kevin Lee Frazier, on Instagram and on Facebook and on the Twitter. And if you want to see some wrestling, it's Kevin Douglas. Just all you gotta do is Google Kevin Douglas Wrestling. You'll get plenty of web pages with my matches, who I've wrestled, images if you want that, video if you want that. So yeah, plenty of stuff out there. Some of the matches I might recommend to you would be, any match where I wrestled Chase Owens or Daniel Bryan, Bear Brown. A lot of those matches are really good matches. Any match where you're going to see me on Hollywood television, very well produced, looking good. So yeah, feel free to do that. Feel free to follow me, keep up with me, guys. Still part of the family.
Forever one of the Alliance guys. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. And next time we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.